This time we'll call the meeting of November 7th, 2016 back to order. Councilmember Friend, will you lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gomez.
Here.
City Council members Friend.
Here.
Clower.
Here.
Luna.
Present.
City Manager Averill.
Present.
City Attorney Sullivan.
Present.
Chief of Police Westrick.
Here.
And City Clerk Graves here.
Thank you. Verification of agenda posting.
The amended agenda for the City Council of the City of Hollister meeting of November 7th, 2016 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on November 5th, 2016 at 2:05 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. City Attorney, do you want to report out from closed session?
Yeah, a report was given to the council on the ongoing litigation between Benchmark Homes and Award Homes, the city and the county, and instruction was given.
Thank you very much. We have an update, election information update from the Election Department.
Good evening, Mayor.
Is the election over?
From the Elections Department, I noticed on the agenda that Angela was supposed to be here to give the update. But we're kind of busy over there today. We're getting ready for a big day tomorrow. We think it's going to be a pretty big turnout tomorrow. Big election turnout. We already have about 10,000 vote by mail ballots that have been received. So of 28,000 plus registered voters, it's a pretty substantial sum. So tomorrow we'll be seeing a huge number of ballots being delivered. Wanted to notify the council that one of the things that the Elections Department recently did was we had a ballot drop-off box located in the alley between the Hall of Records and the library. I know that there's been stories. I think John did a story on that ballot box. We want to make sure that people know about it because it's very convenient, and you don't have to walk up the flight of stairs to get up to the second floor of the Elections Department. And seems to be well received. Today we had 780 ballots dropped off just in that box, so it's pretty good. Unfortunately, this morning we had a equipment failure at the Elections Department. We had our DRE machine. It's digital recording equipment. It's really used for people with special needs, voters with special needs. There were 12 voters who had used that machine, which had been open since the 29-day close of the election. And so we're contacting those voters to have them come in and either vote on the replacement machine or receive a paper ballot, or we can actually, since those DRE machines have a ballot trail, it's a printer on the side of the machine, we're able to get those, replicate the ballots as they voted. But to ensure that the voters feel that this is a completely transparent system, we want to make sure if they're available, we can bring them back and have them re-vote on that machine. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because for 6 voters, the issue related to Measure W. And so we want to make sure that every single vote is counted, and I wanted to assure the council that that is the case. We have a very good audit trail and we'll be able to ensure that those 6 votes get counted. Other than that, that's the end of my report. And just any questions?
Any questions, council? Councilmember Lynn?
Yes, I have a question. Now, what happens if somebody that voted in the machine is out of the country? You are not able to reach that person. Is that
Well, as I mentioned,
voided?
The DRE machines have a printer
A trail.
attached to the site, and there's an audit trail there. We have developed the system such that we can basically spoil that ballot and replicate that ballot on a paper ballot, and then we can either use a paper ballot or replicate that onto the replacement DRE machine, and still ensure voter privacy, which is a major concern
Right.
when these machines go out. Unfortunately, these machines have been around since 2004, and they're electronic machines, so they're basically computers. And so we're in process right now of negotiating new voting equipment with Dominion Systems, which is the system company that we do business with now. So we think we got a handle on it. Okay.
If I can, to expand on that question, are you going to have others witnessing when you do that, or how does that work?
That's always the case. Every
Okay.
single part of the whole election process, there's always a chain of custody where at least 2 people are performing that function. And that's kind of the basic premise of everything we do in elections.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope.
Thank
Thank you very much for the update. All right, tonight we have a proclamation for National Philanthropy Day. Is there somebody here to receive that? Oh. You look so relaxed, right?
Always.
Were you sleeping on us?
No, not yet. There.
Good to see you. Whereas philanthropic organizations are responsible for enhancing the quality of life of people, and now therefore I, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, do hereby proclaim November 15th, 2016 to be National Philanthropy Day in the City of Hollister, and urge everyone to recognize the traditions of American philanthropy as it continues to improve and enhance the lives of all by promoting the common good. Thank you for doing that. You always say about 2 hours.
I didn't know I got a chance to say something. So, on behalf of the 142 nonprofits who serve San Benito County, thank you. Thank you for all that you do for philanthropy. I know individually you are very philanthropic, but also as a city, very philanthropic. You've supported the nonprofits and you continue to do that. So on Tuesday night, we will gather with 300 people and about 60 nonprofits at San Juan Oaks and celebrate this, and this will be presented to the community. So on behalf of those nonprofits, thank you.
Thank you. We've had a request to move item 57 and 58 to the front of the agenda, if that's all right with the council. Do we have quite a few speaker cards on that item, on those items? We do. So what we're going to do is limit to 1 minute. If you can come up and give your speeches out there for a minute, we'd appreciate that. So we can move this along. I'm sure we'd all want to be home before 10 tonight. Do we do 9?
Is that your favorite TV show on 10 o'clock?
All right, so let's go ahead and have this conversation item F57. Bill, who's going to update us?
I was already just ready to go.
Before you continue, Bill, sorry.
That's right.
Are we going to be hearing these items jointly?
We can, because they're essentially related. So do you want to kind of take them both as one item, and you can make a motion and vote on them separately, but I don't mind the same reports basically twice. So.
Yeah, that'd be great if we could
Okay.
hear them jointly. That would be great.
Okay. So, oddly enough, we have a very unique situation in the city of Hollister in which our high school actually resides in two different jurisdictions. The north half of the campus, or the old campus, is actually in the city of Hollister, with the south half of the campus, or the new campus, is located in the county, within the county of San Benito's jurisdiction. Where the dividing line is essentially the center line at Nash Road. So what you're going to be discussing this evening is basically from the center line of Nash Road between Monterey and West Street to the north is a portion of property that is currently owned and sort of administered by the city of Hollister. You folks have been meeting with the County Board of Supervisors and with the high school district about its temporary closure for probably a number of years. Most recently, probably about a year ago, there's been several meetings, and I think we're at a place now where we are ready to enter into essentially a three-party agreement for the closure of Nash Road. So when I say closure, we'll discuss what the arrangements are. Right now, for the folks that are in the audience, that it's going to be temporarily closed for a period of 99 years. And I know that doesn't necessarily sound temporary, but it's temporary in nature from the perspective of right now it's being closed from 7 in the morning until 7 p.m. That's the temporary portion of the closure. The length of time is well beyond most of us, so we'll call that permanent. We had several conditions that were a part that needed to be met as it related to the CEQA or the environmental document that went along with closing it. There were some improvements that the city requested to be made. There were some terms that were requested that the bypass that would run south and behind the football stadium would be completed prior to the closure. We have all agreed on all of the things that were implemented as far as traffic calming devices. In fact, we actually got the high school district to agree to the B and D Street sort of expanded traffic calming devices from Powell Street. That is now in a new Exhibit F as part of the agreement. And with that said, I think staff's recommendation now is to move forward and approve the resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into both agreements for the temporary closure of Nash Road. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to ask me. If I don't know the answer, I know Brad's sitting here. He's been working on it as well. So.
Okay. So any questions from the council?
I'd rather hear from the public.
From the public first? Okay. This time we'll start inviting the public up. Do you want to call those in order of 3 names at a time, or?
I think I will do that, Mr. Mayor. Yes. I'm going to call 3 names at a time. If you would be so kind as just to get up and sort of gather over there by the podium. It'll save us some time. The first name is John Perales, and then Anthony Patello, and John Corrigan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take a minute to thank everybody involved in this process. This has been a long and arduous task, but there are several people that have worked extremely hard. I know from the city standpoint, Mr. Clower was at all of our meetings. Mr. Botello, I saw him walk in earlier. Ms. Barrios. I just feel that given where we're at today, we are at a kind of a nexus and a new point in time where we can really make a difference for the students of San Benito High School by agreeing to this MOU or agreement to keep our students safe and to build a bypass road, which will lead to working together with joint projects and a river park. And I did that with 1 minute to spare, or 1 second, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and council members, good evening. I think the superintendent said, well, it's been a very difficult task bringing all the parties together to kind of take into account the safety of the students, which is primary all of our concerns, and this agreement addresses that. It's been an issue with the Board of Supervisors for quite some time, as well as, I'm sure, with the City Council. And this is give us a unique opportunity to address that, as well as moving forward with a regional park, which the Board of Supervisors is looking very much forward, working with the high school district as well as the City of Hollister to develop a park that meets the needs of not only the students of San Marino High School, but the whole county. And I want to thank Councilman Clower for his involvement in the numerous meetings and his input, which has been absolutely invaluable in getting to this point. So we look forward to working with the city and the high school district in the intergovernmental committee and going forward with enhancement of these projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is John Corrigan. I have a junior at San Bernardino High School, and I have 3 more high schoolers to come over the next few years. And I urge you all to approve or adopt this plan. I've been before most of you quite a bit over the last couple of years talking about joint use, joint venture, and working together between the school district and the city and the county, albeit for pools. But this is kind of a first step in that direction. The speed at which people travel down that street that bisects the campus is far too fast for having so many kids cross that street every day. And the fact that it gives your constituents an option, it gives them the ability to go around that mess. I don't know why they'd want to sit through that traffic when they have a chance to go around it and avoid it entirely anyway. So again, as a concerned parent, I urge you all to adopt this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Richmond, Bill Tiffany, and Kelly Sepulveda. Please.
Good evening, Marty Richmond from Hollister. I'd just like to take a minute to say that the success of this program is going to depend almost completely on the students, how they drive in that area around Nash Road, and whether or not the administration is going to enforce the rules at the high school. And they will for the first couple of months. The question is what happens after that. If the local residents are happy because the students follow the rules, stay within the speed limit, don't trash up the thing, don't park in the driveway, everybody's going to be happy. And it'll be a great success, not just for a park, but for the closure. If the residents are unhappy, it's not going to be a success. So really, the balance of power lies within the hands of the users in this case, because the residents will be watching. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Bill Tiffany. I'm a member of the Hollister School District, the High School District Board of Trustees. I'm one of the longest members of that particular board, and for as long as I can remember, various members of that board have been working on this particular project with some of your staff, some of the county staff, and some of you as individuals. And like others, I would really like to thank everybody that's been involved working on this project to finally get it to this point. I know it's an overused cliche, but this is truly a win-win type situation. On the one hand, the high school is going to be able to address a safety concern that we've had literally for decades. That crossing of Nash Road is a serious accident waiting to happen. We've had some accidents in the past, as you know. And in addition to that, this is a community that, in my opinion, as a community member, really needs additional parks. We have very few. We have a growing population. We have a young population. We need parks, and we're going to get one with this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry Sepulveda, Maribel Ramos, and Evelyn Murrow.
Good evening, Jerry Sepulveda, resident at the corner of D and Powell. Probably live as close to the high school as you can get. The overflow of traffic for me in that area, speed bumps or not, are going to be an issue. I guess I lived there long enough to see that and see the incidents that take place in that area. I know there's safety exposure in that area on Nash Road. The overflow traffic, if you spend any time now without overflow traffic in the adjacent intersections, with the exception of those two at Monterey and Nash and West and Nash, in the mornings and the afternoons, and the San Benito extension, that is a safety concern, and it's not going to get any better with the closure of Nash Road. Bypass put in place, going to alleviate some of the traffic, but still, I see it all the time. It's an inconvenience for me personally, and having speed bumps on my street is another inconvenience. So for me, that's, it's just a pain in the rear. So the other thing I can say is that giving me a minute, working for 30 years to buy a home, and then get a minute to try and represent what I think is an issue there is kind of a slap in the face. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, I just want to say thank you for the city, and they've been helpful. I've been, I'm willing to, I'm at the river right now. God always directs me wherever, but I'm always everywhere. I'm always picking up garbage everywhere, and I was just wondering if I could get a little bit of help of, just at the river, just bring me some bags, because I've been buying bags, and, it's been, it's therapy for me, though. It is. It's been helping me a lot, helping me of my addiction, and it's helping me of meditating and, and going to the Father's house has been helping me a lot, and I'm grateful that the Father's house is there still, because if it wasn't for the Linda and Pat, my dad would be, gone, but my dad's alive right now because of Linda and Pat. I'm so grateful, but if I could get a little bit of help with water and bags.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll track you down out there. Thanks.
Thanks.
Good. How do you translate? On the top?
You can push them all, but it's not going to change it.
I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to get any more time. You haven't started it, have you?
Leave the buttons alone.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm a 12-year member of the Board of Trustees, and I started at San Benito High School as a teacher in 1980. So some of you probably remember the old Vesey House. Well, my classroom is right next to the Vesey House, so I have up close and personal observation of crossing of Nash Road and going back and forth with students and with faculty and with staff and with campus supervisors for the security. I want to thank you very, very much. I'm going to end my term here. My last board meeting is November 15th, and it is just with great pleasure that we could see the cooperation between the city and the county and the school district for the closure of Nash Road for our students and for the city and the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Corrigan, Paulette Cobb, and Tom. I'm sorry?
John already spoke.
Oh. Paulette Cobb, Tom Ruth, and Adrian Ramirez, please.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Paulette Cobb. I'm the Director of Special Education for San Benito High School District, and I'm here tonight to thank you because on behalf not only of myself but the families that I represent, I am responsible for the education and safety of 330 plus families of students with special needs. Approximately 54 of them are students with severe handicaps that cross that street every single day. They do that to go to PE, to sensory rooms, and other areas on the campus, which they have the right to have access to. And it has always been a concern of mine. We have students with a variety of disabilities, including autism, other behavioral issues and cognitive disabilities that make it difficult for them to have good judgment. They do frequently travel with instructional assistants and other help, but on occasion they will elope. In other words, they'll run or they'll go quickly when they're frightened, when there's something that overstimulates them and that intersection overstimulates them. So when they're crossing that street, when all of the thousands of students are moving with them all in that one area, it can be, they can move quickly and unexpectedly. And I have spent a number of hours along with other administrators at our high school keeping these kiddos safe, sometimes waiting for quite some time while they sit on the sidewalk and wait for the kids to pass because they're so overwhelmed by what happens on that street. So I just wanted to personally thank you for your consideration tonight on this issue, because it will be a peace of mind knowing that there's less cars for our kids to run in front of.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I want to thank you for making the memorandum of understanding a year ago, and for following through to have the closure of Nash Road, which is a huge safety boon for the kids who attend San Benito High School. It's no secret this community is growing. There are, 1,000 new homes going in right now, which is going to translate into a whole lot of new students at that high school. As you create the bypass road, you also have created an era of cooperation that really contradicts much of what's happening in the national conversation. I want to commend you for that. There is so much we can achieve by working together here. I look forward to seeing not only the closure of the road and the bypass put in, but also a swimming center, a park, and lots of great things for the city of Hollister and San Benito County. Thanks very much for making this happen.
Good evening, Adrian Ramirez, Principal of San Benito High School. First of all, I want to thank our City Council members for working with the San Benito High School in reaching this point. I understand a lot of time and effort has been put into analyzing all the aspects to such a decision. Not only the principal of the school, but I grew up just a few blocks away, and although it has been some time since I've had to make the daily drive from one end of Nash to the other in between the high school, I do understand that you've had to consider the impact this may have for our nearby residents. With that said, I'm clearly here today to advocate that you vote in favor of the agreement that has been drawn up and is before you today for a vote. I can tell you that in the 13 years that I've been working at the high school, I've always had some level of oversight and involvement in the area of campus safety. Behind the leadership of our superintendent, Mr. John Perellis, I've never seen such an effort from our campus to be good neighbors to our nearby residents. From significantly improving the parking situation to having administration literally walking through the nearby streets to follow up on reported concerns. We are committed to continue finding ways to remedy some of the issues that we face with having 3,000 students and a campus that is nestled in the middle of a residential area. Obviously, this presents many safety issues, with the most significant one being the safety of our 3,000 students, 300 staff members, and all of our community members who walk across the Nash Road crossing. Again, thank you for your consideration, and I urge you to vote in favor of the agreement to close Nash Road.
Thank you very much.
Ed Schmidt, Vincent Ramirez, and Dominic Garcia, please.
Good evening. Mr. Clower knows me. I was coach for football for lots of time, long time, and I was a keep it real guy, and because it's always zero sum. If you blow it, you're going to lose. But this situation is unique. It's different. You guys have all cooperated. It's a win-win-win. All the parties involved are going to have some payoff, and everybody, all parties involved as well, have to give something. But overall, you're going to get a park. You're going to get some other stuff. You're going to get student safety, and hopefully you'll get the parking will continue to get better. And I want to commend you guys for working with the county, working with the high school district, having that in mind, safety of the students and making Hollister a better place. I appreciate it, and again, it's not a zero-sum thing. Everybody involved gets a little piece of it, gets a benefit. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Your Excellencies. I just think that this is a very complex situation that we're in, but I think there's a very simple solution, and that's the solution of creating uniformity in this very complex traffic situation that a lot of our students are engaged in every day. And it really is a win-win situation for the city, for the school, and obviously for the population. I think you guys will see the benefits of the bypass, of the closing of the Nash Road during the period from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You're going to see the benefits long-term for many, many years. This is the future of Hollister. It's growing. It's developing. We're finally getting incorporated into the North Bay Area economy, and I think this is going to be great for you guys. You're going to see the benefits, no question about it. And so, again, thank you for voting on this, and obviously I hope you guys vote for the approval. And I think that you're going to see the benefits for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dominic Garcia, and I'm an ASB officer from San Benito High School. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for all your hard work regarding the closing of Nash Road. This issue regarding the closing of Nash Road will benefit the students very much. Crossing the street can be a very dangerous task for those who have crossed it. I have witnessed myself a bunch of people getting close calls in terms of car accidents, and including myself, I was almost hit once. So regardless of whether the pedestrian was paying attention or not, this is an issue that we need to resolve tonight. So I think for you guys, the traffic would also be less of an issue because of the bypass. So I think that you guys, being in favor of this, would really help our community and help the future of San Benito High School. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Adam Hernandez, Andrei Vladimirov, and Ray Garcia.
Hello, I'm Adam Hernandez. I'm part of ASB, and I'm part of the audio-visual coordinator. And I think the closing of Nash Road would be really good because it'd make it a lot safer for us audio-visual coordinators, because as we're lugging the system across the street, there's a lot of drivers that don't really pay attention to us, and they come close to hitting us, and that's over $1,000 worth of equipment that we can't pay ourselves.
Not the equipment, really.
Yeah, and we need that. But I think it would be a good idea for closing this, and it would make our school a lot safer. And yeah, thank you.
Good job, buddy.
Hi, my name's Andrei Vladimirov. I'm also an ASB student and AV coordinator at the high school. I've been involved with a lot of sports at the high school, but we're not going to get into that because I'm not a good athlete. But anyways, the closure of Nash Road is going to ultimately be beneficial for our community. It's going to be something that's going to prove to be very safe for our students. Some of our students, I guess, feel defiant or recalcitrant sometimes and choose to cross the street without being escorted by a crossing guard. And that's, like one of my fellow citizens already said, it's a big accident waiting to happen. Obviously, there are a few issues that need to be addressed, like the parking situation and the building of the bypass, but I feel like as a community we can all cooperate and figure that out together. So all I ask is that you please keep your mind open in closing Nash Road.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Ray Garcia. I am a senior at San Benito High School, and I want to thank you for considering this project for Nash Road. It is indeed a safety hazard. I have almost been hit a couple times, dazing off, but we've all been there. And but I want to thank you for taking a huge step for completing this project, and I just want to thank you for all your hard work, and that's it.
Thank you very much.
Maria Martinez, Debbie Simmons, and Lisa French.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I live on Powell Street, which is very close to the intersection of D. I've been here before and spoken to you. It seems that I know the high school wants to be good neighbors, but I think sometimes they fall short in that, in lack of communication, as far as not letting us know when some of these important meetings are coming up. I know it's going to be beneficial for the students, and their safety comes first, but I think we're also kind of alluding to the effect that it's going to throw a lot of that traffic onto Powell Street, West, Monterey, and talk about it's not so much the kids that are driving. I have more confidence in the kids that are driving than sometimes the parents, because they just fly right down the street. And this morning, taking my mom out, getting her ready to go to church, I counted at least 50 cars, and I had to wait at least 10 minutes to get out of my parking space at home. And so I know there's certain times that I have to wait a long time. If I'm not out of the house by 10:02 or whatever, I've got better wait. But I'd just like to let you know that you're coming to us to ask us for your support, but in the same time, you're not supporting us. And we want to support your bond measures and all that, but I think you have to really stop and consider. We're going to consider these votes as they come up in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Lisa French. I'm a mother of a junior at the high school, but I'm also a campus supervisor. One of my jobs there is getting the kids across the street safely, and sometimes that can be very hard. Even today, I covered a half-hour lunch, and in that half hour, I had 4 cars that completely ran the stop sign with kids out in the crossing. So I do fear that it is kind of dangerous. Also, I see the public's frustration when I have to hold them up out there as a crossing guard. They really want to get somewhere. So I think it's kind of a win-win. And I really would like to see us be proactive on something instead of reactive when we have a kid get hurt really bad or something. But I want to thank you for giving me the time to come up and talk.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Simmons. I'm a mother of a senior. I spoke with you when you guys had the meeting at the Veterans Building. I really, really appreciate all the time and effort that you and the city has spent with San Benito High School staff in trying to come to a solution that's presented to you here today as a resolution. I remember that meeting quite well, and there was a lot of finger pointing of they won't move, they won't move. I'm glad that you're finally trying to make an effort of having a we atmosphere and trying to find a solution. The high school's been there in its current location for over 100 years. The roads haven't changed much, and I'm looking forward to having some change because I do believe the bypass will alleviate a lot of pressure that's on the side streets such as Powell and B and West Street, and I hope that you will adopt the resolution as it's presented towards you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I only have 2 more names, Margie Barrios and Catherine Foster.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present to you tonight. As you can see, there's a lot of passion for this item, and I want to thank you for considering it. But I want to remind you of the students that are here tonight. They are taking the time to come up here and speak with you, and I'm really proud of them. It takes a lot of courage to come up and talk to elected officials, and yet they're here to represent other students and their schools. So students, thank you so much. If you approve this, it's going to go to the Board of Supervisors tomorrow. We're making history. It is not often that 3 agencies, the City of Hollister, San Benito High School District, and San Benito County, can agree on something. It's taken us a lot of hours, endless hours, to be able to come to a solution. But I can say that your representative, Mr. Clower, was instrumental in making sure that the city was protected. Our Board of Supervisors representatives there were instrumental in making sure that the county was protected. Officials from San Benito High School were instrumental in making sure that San Benito High School was protected. Thank you so much. I urge you to vote yes on the closure of Nash Road for the protection of our children. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. I would just like to also thank you for all the hours and hard work. I know that it's really been a long process, and a lot of people have put a lot of effort into it. I know that this decision isn't easy. Sometimes the right decision isn't always easy. But I think we all know what the right decision is, and I encourage you to make that decision this evening so we can take the next step.
A good number of people couldn't be here this evening but wanted to be here this evening. So the last thing I'm going to do is just give you the petition that circulated today among supporters at the high school for the closure of the road. And thank you again for the effort that you're taking to solve this safety issue.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. As the last speaker. All right. Any comments or questions from the council? Councilmember Luna?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, I want to really thank the students for being here. This is all about government, and I'm sure you understand when we're in a position to do what is right for the community and our schools, then we move forward with that. And there's always rules and regulations and requirements of us as elected officials to move forward with the proper procedure. San Benito High School is in my district. And I know that many of you came before us, and we had that session at the Veterans Memorial Building. And I agree with, I believe it's Debbie, that yes, we made progress that night. We heard you, and it's not that we don't support the high school and we don't support the possibility of closing the Nash Road and working on that, but I have a concern tonight, and I'm going to let you know why. And my concern is that when you are having a meeting at the high school and your board is meeting, and the residents in the area are not notified to come to that meeting so that they can speak out like you have spoken out tonight. And you have every right to be here and to speak to us and to let us know what is going on. They were not given that opportunity. And when that board actually met, I was there, and I was there on another item on their agenda. I wasn't there because of the agreement. So when the vote was taken, actually, there was no public comment. And to me, when we run for office, we represent the people of this community. We want their input. This council cannot work by itself. We're 5 people, but we cannot work by itself. Right now, we listen to you, and we really, and you know, it really hit home, because after all, some of us went to San Benito High School. It was Hollister High at the time. But with that, I just wanted to make sure that you know how I felt, because I want to be more inclusive. I would like to see more residents from the area come out and speak out and given the opportunity. And then after that, we move forward. I'm not here right now to oppose anything that is on this agreement, because I think that some of the items here in the agreement, the park and everything else, and the, you know, improving our high school is a must. So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to refer to our legal counsel on his recommendation, because I really believe that the people in the public did not have the opportunity to come out and speak during the board meeting at San Benito High School. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council?
Brad, do you have an answer for that?
Well, I asked for clarification with Mr. Tiffany, a colleague, and I believe, maybe if I may, they did have speaker cards available to people at the meetings to talk, and there was no one that filled out a speaker card to talk on this matter. As far as the agenda item and knowing about it, I did not ask Bill about that, what their policy was. It was probably more of a function of complying with the law, which is to post on campus and post in a conspicuous place, and whether people pick that up or not, that would be somewhat of an issue. There is no requirement because of the way we're doing these aren't road abandonments. Road abandonments, you'd have to give notice to people within 500 feet. That's not a case under this subject of this section of the vehicle code.
And I just want to say that, after the article in the local media, I started getting the calls because it's my district, asking why was I not notified to be at that meeting to speak out. And I said, that wasn't a council meeting. Keep in mind that was a school board meeting. And it would have to come from the school board, the announcement, because in the past, and I remember it so well, when some of the residents in the area said that the high school did go out there and put notices in their doors or gave them notices about another follow-up meeting, and it was regarding the same, And so that's my question. Was it required that they had to give notice to the residents? Because after all, they're the ones that are calling and say, we were never given the opportunity. My way of thinking is I really want everybody to have the opportunity. Tonight we had the opportunity. We gave people the opportunity. And at the same time, I want the residents of the city of Hollister that live around the high school to be given that opportunity. It's not that I'm sitting here opposing the plan. It's just the process.
Well, they complied with the minimum level of the process. I don't know what the public relations or what the motivation to the earlier, handing out flyers or mailing to, whatever it was that was done. I'm unaware of that level of outreach that the school district did at that time, and what type of process like the city would employ through the planning department. If someone comes to a planning commission meeting or a workshop, they would leave their name with the planning commission, and thereafter they are given notice. So I don't know. There's not a parallel body in a school board to our planning commission to take that role on. But by putting it on their agenda, they are providing the legal necessary notice to take this action.
Okay. I would say this, City Attorney. The board had their meeting and the public showed up. This is a different body, and I don't think we should be careful not to be making a decision based on what another body did at another time, because I think at that point we might be crossing the line.
And clarification on that, Mr. Mayor, this is my district, and these are the constituents that I serve, and when they call upon me, I will answer.
I hear you.
And that's why I'm bringing this up.
I appreciate
and
that.
And it's not because I am against the plan, all right?
And I don't mean to imply by doing the minimum level that that's not good enough or making an editorial comment that they should have done more. They had done more in the past. They had involved the people. So there's some responsibility on both parties to stay involved.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Ray Rodriguez. I'm the president of the Board of Trustees currently. In this night of cooperation, I'd like to thank Mickey or Councilwoman Luna for asking the tough questions. That's your job, after all. So thank you. But just to clarify, it's dangerous if we're going to set a precedent every time we do something. That community meeting where the district went out and passed out flyers within a 2-block radius or whatever else was a meeting that really the neighbors had asked the district to hold relative to parking. And so the district stepped up and held this meeting relative to parking and shared our future road plans at that time. As far as posting, I celebrate that this district is very easy for someone to get on our agenda list. They have to make one phone call, or they could call any of the board members, and I think they'd be on the list once they were buried and in the ground as well. I just checked the email about when the posting happened, and posting happened in all of our normal physical spots. It went out to, I write on this so I don't forget, 41 constituents. Yes, most of those were email addresses at the school because those are the people that have made the request, but there were many that weren't. And I think the minimum requirement is 72 hours notice. It went out over 96 hours before our meeting. You know, if we picked and chose, as you know, for example, the first time you guys considered a Nash Road closure, I wasn't notified. I found out hours before your meeting. I had to run down here, well, actually run here from Palo Alto and get to the meeting. I don't think we could cover every base if we set the precedent that everyone involved was going to be notified at every meeting. That would be great, and it would be great if the community read the postings and saw which items they wanted to address. I hope that clarifies for you. I think our posting met more than the minimum requirement, and anybody who wants to be notified, I'm sure, could email the superintendent here. They could call me for the next 30 days, and then after that, I don't know. But I'll help you through the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Gomez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to thank Councilmember Clower and obviously his involvement. It's always good when you have a student council member on the council. So that was a compliment. Carson, you're welcome. But I don't remember the last time this item came or when we discussed this last, but I do recall that you know, our direction to the Board of Trustees and to John specifically, I don't know where, there you are, to John specifically was, hey, we'll adopt this based on these contingencies. You took it back to your board. You did what you had to do. To an extent, you went above and beyond what was asked of you. Your board voted on it last Tuesday, whatever the situation may have been, and you got it done. We put in a request, you did it, and for that, we thank you for doing that. So I want to thank you. I want to thank Bill, Ray, as well for your leadership on this. Again, we ask for your support in getting these traffic calming measures built into the plan. I think I've always, since day one, agreed, though I graduated 20 years ago, I agree that this was going to happen, right? I mean, Nash Road was going to close, and it probably should at some point close permanently. So I appreciate all the work that's gone into it. I want to thank Supervisor Botello, Supervisor Barrios as well for coming out today and advocating for this. I know it's important to the both of you, and I'm sure to your colleagues as well. So, as somebody that initially didn't support this and asked for modifications to the MOU, those modifications have been made, and I will be supporting these two items tonight. So, thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Councilmember Clower.
Yeah, so we talked about this, I think, at least the first time that I heard about it as a council member was maybe a year and a half ago. And we went essentially a full year without anything happening. And then somebody, I think it was Adam, set up a meeting to talk about it. And there was a number of us in the room at the time. And Superintendent Perales came in, and honestly, he was pretty fired up that we hadn't done anything for a year. So just getting that start on it was exciting for me because at least in city government, I don't know about other forms of government, things take a long time, snail's pace, and you get frustrated. And it was good to see somebody actually showing a little anger. He was mad about it, and I was mad about it too. But it was good to get that start. And then having Supervisors Botello and Barrios in the meeting as well was big because we actually had to come up with some real life solutions for this. It wasn't a do this, do this, do this. It works. Our city attorneys and the county attorneys and the school district's attorneys pretty much told us you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. It doesn't work because of those reasons. So most of our ideas didn't work the first couple months. So it did take a lot of effort to get to where we are. And I appreciate everybody that was in the room for the last 4 months or so. for me, there's a couple reasons why I think this is great for at least the vast majority of the people in the community. The first one is that if we don't move forward with the Nash Road closure, as a city, we're acting negligent. We know that there's a safety issue. If we don't do anything about it, then that's on us. It's been a little over 10 years since I was at the high school every day. It was a big problem then. I think the numbers are about the same now as they were back then. As a student, you're kind of wondering, like, is this really the best that we can come up with? Having to wait 5 minutes to cross the street and then rushing to the next place. And students aren't always the smartest when they cross the street, but at the same time, I've been the driver who doesn't pay attention and almost drives into the crosswalk when the crossing guard is already out in the street. So I think from a safety aspect, it's going to be better for everybody. Another thing that maybe hasn't been talked about quite as much as the Nash Road closure is the fact that there's going to be eventually, I don't know when, but there's going to be some nice park facilities along the river there. For my district, District 3, which is, I think, very underserved in terms of park facilities, that's going to be really big because that corner, Cienega, Prune, the new houses that are going in, we don't really have any parks in that area of town, so that's going to be really nice. And then just the fact that as 3 public entities, we've been able to cooperate as we have. I'm excited. I think there's going to be some other opportunities for us to move forward, whether it's joint use agreements of some sort to get, I'll be greedy, my constituents access to some of the facilities at the high school. That's something I'd like to look forward to. And then another thing is just the fact that the county is going to be putting in a parking lot that can be used by the students during the school day. So that should help alleviate some of the parking issues. I know that with the passage of the last bond measure, that really helped by adding another parking lot. So as things move forward, it should take a little bit of pressure off of that. So as being somebody who's kind of been in this from the ground up, I'm definitely in support of this.
Thank you. Councilmember Friend?
Well, it was no secret. I thought this was a dumb idea when it was brought to us. And the reason it was a dumb idea because it was brought to us as a done deal. And there was no communication with anybody that lived around there, anybody lived in the city. The county and the school board, the way it was presented to us, it just made a decision to do this. And they were going to close Nash Road. And then they found out Nash Road was not theirs to close. So they had to come and talk to us. And I really believe in the last 6 months, if that's what it's been a year and a half, but in the last 6 months there has been some movement to where the things that were brought up by the people that lived around there have pretty much been mitigated by the parking situation being taken care of, I hope, by the traffic calming situations that mitigations that we have in here. And one of the things I was adamant about was that we have the bypass before we close the road. So that's the way it's going to be timed out, and that's the way it's going to happen. I'm still concerned that the county's going to build a decent road. Whether the park is ever going to happen, I'm not sure of that either. But I know if the bypass is built, we will close the road. The other thing, we talk a lot about safety for the kids. I'm concerned that we don't have any concern for the people that are on campus after 7 o'clock at night or on the weekends. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen on that campus after 7 o'clock at night. And that would seem to me to be more dangerous than everybody knows the kids are there during the school day. So I'm a little concerned that we haven't quite measured up very well on the safety situation, but I do believe we've moved a long ways to answering all the issues. So thank you.
Okay. Just wanted to first say how proud I am of the students that came up and spoke tonight. You guys are cool. It's not an easy thing to do, and I know you had the other classmates kind of back here wishing they were you to come up too. You know, I think my first meeting on this, Adam, was that 3 years ago, 2 years ago? It was a while back, and I remember sitting in the office, and Ray, I think you might have been there, and the concept was brought up about this bypass and closing this road. And I think we said, can we get it done within a year? Well, there's a lot of work that goes into it, obviously, right? This is government. But I'm glad to see, Adam, you're here, and that's probably why I started moving forward again and the studies came in. Yeah, this is one of those things where it's clear, and it's being proactive is one of those things that nobody really appreciates it because it's done and we never see the tragedy, right? Being reactive means it happened, and then we react to that incident. We should never react to the incident. We should prevent the incident. And I know I've been at that stop sign many a times just shaking my head wondering when it was going to happen. It's clear. There's just way too many students. And I know it's inconvenient for some of the property owners, but it's much better to make sure our young people stay alive than it is to take a few more minutes or have a few more people drive down your street. It is what it is. We've heard the school's been there for 100 years, and we need to make sure we're doing everything we can for all of our students to be safe in that area as they go to school. And we shouldn't be worrying about them having to cross the street. So I'm glad it's at this point. I hope we can get this road done soon rather than later. And I'm sure with Adam on board and pushing this through, we'll get that taken care of pretty quickly. So thank you again to the students that spoke tonight. You guys are awesome. All right, is there a motion on item F57?
I move to approve resolutions number 2016-176 and 2016-177.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. 5-0 vote. Thank you very much, everyone. We will take a 10-minute break. And you students can bring up your cards if you need. We'll move to the consent calendar. Are there any items that the council would like to pull?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to just make a quick note on the agenda. It mentions items A1 through A12. It's actually A1 through A15.
Thank you very much. A10, A12.
I'm sorry, A10, A12?
A10, A12, A13, and A15.
Motion to approve as amended.
I'd like to pull item A6. I'm sorry?
I have the same one.
Okay. All right.
I should have seconded.
Mr. Gomez, do you want to make a...
Yeah, motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A6. We can explain what we're doing here.
Yes, the City of Hollister received a request for a $2,500 grant for the 12 Days of Giving campaign. It's a local contribution in which gets matched by a national organization. We've been asked to participate with this along with other local businesses and corporations. The activities support other local nonprofits, the Community Food Bank, Emmaus House, to name a few. It was a time sensitive request in the sense that I think it's before the Thanksgiving holiday, where we normally would do sort of the nonprofit organizations sometime around mid-year budget as we look at it. However, I wanted to put this on the agenda for you to consider this action. I believe Mark Paxton is here if you have any questions specifically about the 12 days, and I'm not sure if Gary is still around or not. But
I don't really have any questions in particular. I'm just concerned that we had the conversation about how we're using some of the tax dollars, and I know this is for a good cause. There's absolutely no doubt, and I don't mind giving personally to it, but I'm have concerns about using tax dollars for this type of a donation. That's all.
My concern is that Mark Paxton's behind this. I'm just kidding. Motion to approve.
On the way out, you're just burning them all.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? 4-1, please.
Yes.
We'll move to item A10.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to abstain from this item because I wrote an offer for a private party on this property earlier in the year.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We have 2 speaker cards for A10, Mr. Mayor.
All right. We want to give us the update first, and we can go from there.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and council members. It came to our attention recently that there's a property that's for sale at the corner of El Toro Drive and Sunny Slope Road. This is one of several parcels in Sunny Slope Road, and it applies to Hillcrest Road also, where there's development occurred a long time ago. The house that's there was built in 1947, and the city has grown around it. So there's the city's interest. We're recommending that the city purchase the parcel so that we can acquire the right-of-way for Sunny Slope Road to be widened, and also to improve the visibility at the intersection of El Toro and Sunny Slope Road. I think if you're familiar with the intersection, it's difficult to make a left turn. It's also close to the intersection of Valley View and Sunny Slope Road. The property is for sale. It was recently reduced by $50,000. We're recommending that the council approve a supplemental appropriation to acquire the property. The appraised value is $230,000. We're recommending an appropriation of $250,000 to cover closing costs. We would need to do testing for lead-based paint and asbestos. We're also recommending, if the property is acquired, that it could be resold as an affordable housing unit. We had a similar situation on San Benito Street where a house was demolished and then rebuilt in partnership with the local nonprofit housing developer in the community, and then we used the down payment assistance to resell the house. We're also recommending in the staff report that we be directed to contact the property owners just to the east to see if we could work with them to move their driveways off of Sunny Slope Road and develop access off of El Toro Drive. Is there any questions?
Any questions from council?
What is the need for the upgrade?
If you go to this section of Sunny Slope Road, it's a choke point because the city doesn't have the right of way, and the city has historically not wanted to condemn private property. This is an opportunity for us to purchase the property and then acquire the right of way and improve a dysfunctional situation. It's substandard, and if we don't buy it today, I guess we don't really have a lot of other financial tools to remedy the problem other than trying to acquire some of these properties as they come for sale and then reselling them. But again, dedicating the right of way so that the road can ultimately be widened to its planned width.
So are you planning on that?
Yeah, it's planned for that yeah.
Because that's not what your drawing shows.
Yeah. So what the plan that you see in front of you that Mary kindly dropped off this evening is sort of what we would call a stopgap sort of situation to mitigate some issues that's related to a mitigation program related to Santana Ranch. One of the things that, as Mary mentioned, it kind of came to us late and it ended up being an opportunity for us. One of the things that I always try to avoid our council having to make is sort of a decision on whether or not to go through the eminent domain process. That's not something that most councils like to do, nor staff. So what we worked on for about 6-7 months was this restriping of Sunny Slope Road at that intersection. And if you take a look at it, you'll see that there's a dedicated turn lane now. There's going to be a signal there to coordinate traffic movements on Valley View and El Toro. But if you also look at your Google Maps or Google Earth, you'll see how that right-of-way extends way into on the north side of Sunny Slope, extends pretty far into where the actual curb and gutter probably should be as it relates to Sunny Slope School and the apartment complex, and then a little further down, I think about 2 or 3 properties past the veterinary hospital, you'll see where it was widened. And so in order to try to eliminate needing to acquire that additional, I think it's 12 or 15 feet, which basically gets to everybody's front door along there, we did some restriping. And so this is sort of what's going to be happening if the council decides not to move forward with this. Again, this just came up kind of a late last-minute opportunity for us. If it's something that the council is interested in, we'll continue to move forward with it. We'll purchase the property. It would be all traffic impact fee funds. And then as other properties along that street become available on a regular basis, not ever on a sort of, I shouldn't say not ever on it, but I don't necessarily ever foresee us going down the eminent domain process. We can assemble those properties, as Mary said, for future affordable housing projects or something along those lines, but get the adequate right-of-way to fully widen the road and have the curb, gutter, and sidewalk available. So this would be probably a knockdown demo and reestablish or vacant until we had another builder or can assemble some additional properties.
So is that part of the negotiations you hope to get into with the other properties that you put the driveway on to?
Well, in the near term, we would like to work with them with your direction to do that, to see if they would be willing to cooperate to have their driveways relocated to El Toro Drive. It would be voluntary for them.
When we say mitigation from the Santana Ranch project, what does that mean? Are they paying for some of this? From the traffic impact fees?
Probably should include that. The mitigation measure requires that when they issue their 146th building permit, that they have to put in a traffic signal at El Toro and Valley View and Sunny Slope.
So how much of these funds are we expecting to collect to do these improvements in that area?
I think that there's a little bit of a coincidence. One is the property's for sale, and the other is that there's movement in the works to signalize the intersection at Sunny Slope and Valley. I think if there wasn't going to be a signal there, we still might be coming to you to ask to purchase this property because we're trying to remedy a problem.
There's some background music.
Background music. It kind of sets the mood for that really difficult decision.
Very dramatic.
To play, the intermission's over.
So
better than Jaws.
I think if we used to have a redevelopment agency, I think if we still had it, this probably would be a nice project to fund with that, but we don't have that tool now. Clean up.
Go ahead, Councilor.
So the cost of buying this house is on the city, not Santa Ana, right?
Correct. And then when the property's sold, that could go back into the traffic impact fee fund. Of course, it may not be 100% reimbursement, but it would still enable the city to start bringing Sunny Slope Road up to its planned width. And there's sidewalk gaps there also, and as I think Bill mentioned, it's right next to Sunny Slope School.
Do we have a complete plan of what that area should look like besides, I know you have these drawings here, but the plan, what we really would like to see there?
There's a complete streets plan that was adopted that ends at Valley View Road, and that does have some addition of a different configuration there, heading to the west.
Because here we'd have to buy how many more properties? 6, 7 properties, additional properties to fix this area correctly? Is that?
I think I counted 7.
7 properties, really to do the right project.
Unless we're able to, when we negotiate with these property owners, we don't know if we assist them with changing their access, if they may be willing to cooperate with the city. We don't know unless we ask.
And I guess that would be my concern, is that we don't know. If we're buying this property and then we find out the other ones don't want to participate, we're stuck again. So I guess my concern is, having those conversations, we should have had those conversations already. We should have the plan. We should have an idea what it's going to cost overall so we get the project done one time. Because I have a feeling, looking at this, is we're going to buy one property and be stuck. And we're not going to get much further. Because once one property owner sees that, they're going to the next one and down the line, rather than all of it or nothing.
We saw this as a first step, and then as we looked at it in more detail, we also don't have a lot of time. It came to our attention, I think we contacted the realtor, they have other offers, and the property owner is waiting to hear from the city. So I think that in some ways they're trying to be flexible with the city because they recognize it's a problem intersection, and that the removal of some of the structures that are there will improve sight lines for motorists, especially trying to leave on El Toro Drive.
So if we were to buy the property, we're not going to be doing any demo work immediately. We'd wait to see what we're trying to accomplish and the other ones are, because what if it turns out nobody else wants to participate and we did the demo work and now we have
it would still be a first step.
Excuse me, Mary. I think one of the things that the council probably should realize is that there is a plan, Mayor. The plan was developed, I believe, probably in around 2001, 2002, 2003, somewhere in there, to widen the entire width of Sunny Slope Road. But as you know, widening Sunny Slope Road to its ultimate width requires acquisition of several properties, and most of the curb and gutter and sidewalk goes right up to many of the front doors of the folks that are there. What we're trying to, again, when you go down that path, the only way you're going to be able to acquire that land is if you go through the eminent domain process. And I think that's when things get really expensive for the city, because now all of a sudden it's not just a friendly transaction or a voluntary transaction between the city and a property owner. It's an involuntary, and we go through that whole, I don't want to say years of condemnation process, but it becomes more difficult. So again, this was an opportunity. If it's an opportunity that we want to pass on right now, that's fine. Just realizing that at some point in the future, Sunny Slope Road is going to have to get to its arterial width of, I can't remember what it is. Is it 84?
84?
60? Whatever. That's the ultimate right away. I mean, so that's the plan that that the city is ultimately going to have to accommodate and achieve at some point.
I guess I'm just going back. You said the plan's been in place since 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Before Santana Ranch was approved, and yet we're using traffic impact fees. Why wasn't there another impact fee to kind of handle this situation?
Having the widening of Sunny Slope Road be a part of the TIMP program.
Yeah, and I know we can't change the past. I'm just curious on
I don't know, David,
how we got to this point.
Was Sunny Slope part of the TIMP, or it never was, right? Yeah, I don't believe that the acquisition or the widening was ever actually a part of that program, but that's something that we might be able to consider in the future. Okay. So.
Any other questions from?
I have a question.
Councilmember Luna?
Yeah. So, Mary, actually the appraisal, is that the $230,000?
Yes.
And the appropriation that is being requested is $250,000. So the $20,000 would that be for covering closing costs or
costs like that? Also, if we need to have a assessment of whether or not there's asbestos or lead-based paint in the structure, if we're working with the property, some of that could also be used to work with maybe redirecting access in agreement with the other properties. We just wanted to make sure we had sufficient funds to acquire the property and cover any incidental costs.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Are we going to be able to take the trees down so we can see around that corner? Without getting in trouble with the Monterey Bay Air Quality Control Police?
Okay, hang on, please. Is that it? Speaker cards?
Yes. First speaker is Tim Burns.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Some of the questions I had have been asked and already answered. With regard to this property, I had an opportunity to go online today to look at the listing price, and it showed to be $229,000. And the property is described as a residence, as a fixer-upper at best, and will probably need to be a complete teardown. So I think some of the questions have been asked and answered about why pay $250,000. I'm not convinced that you could demo that house for what would remain beyond the cost of closing. Certainly, when you buy a property with hazmat, a property of that house of that age is almost guaranteed to have some level of asbestos and absolutely some lead-based paints on it. I would question if there's any historical value to the property. I don't know if you have recollection, as it looks like it's a log cabin design. And I can tell you I walk that neighborhood on a frequent basis, and it is a very dangerous intersection for pedestrians. I can't speak to vehicle traffic and collisions, but when you're walking on that side of the property, there's not enough width between the fence on that property and the roadway to walk at a normal pace, at a normal distance. There's a raised berm that you kind of have to walk between the berm and the fence, the cyclone fence. It is just a nightmare to walk there. I can only assume trying to turn onto Sunny Slope from the adjacent street, Toro, would also be very problematic. And it may be an opportunity to save a situation like you were talking about at the high school earlier this evening. It's also in very close proximity to the high school, and I can tell you I often see a lot of kids walking down the street on that side to the elementary school, and so it makes sense in some regards to purchase the property. I would suggest that it not remain as a vacant or partially boarded up house. My recommendation to you would be you consider just taking it down. It's only going to be a liability and a risk, and it's certainly one of those things that from your code enforcement program, it's going to be very difficult for you to leave that up and then enforce the code enforcement, municipal code, and building codes on those who live in or around that area. So again, I would support asking that you ask to move forward with this project, but address those issues that I've raised. Thank you so much, Council.
Thank you.
And Marty Richmond.
Marty Richard from Hollister, and I did discuss this. I read carefully staff report. I did discuss it on the telephone with Mary Paxton this afternoon. There are some projects where the little pieces can stand alone pretty well because they give you value for your funds. I'm afraid this is not one of them. That the value of that buying that property lies in doing the whole thing. Because if you only widen it in one place and the two homes right next to it say no, then you've gained absolutely nothing. And I'm one who wants to widen Sunny Slope Road. I'm not against it. And I want to finish the sidewalks because that is a problem, as Mr. Burns brought up, and I brought it up here many times before over the years. You know that about people walking in the street, especially the students. But my problem is that the real value of this is to do the whole project. The idea to jump in and spend $250,000 minimum, that's just for closing costs and evaluation, on a $230,000 property and then pay to knock it down and get absolutely nothing in return doesn't make any sense to me if we don't have a full project. We don't know who else is going to agree to it. No one else has been approached as of this time, and we have no idea what we're going to do with it. Are we going to leave it alone? Is CHISPA willing to pay us for it or someone else? It's just too much money for that kind of thing, in my opinion. So I like to offer solutions, and I will offer an intermediate solution. And the intermediate solution would be to pay the current owner something for an easement that gets them to chop down those trees with the permission of the Monterey Bay Air Pollution Control District, so that we can get some visual problem there. I could see us sitting on that property for an awful long time waiting to do something, waiting to convince someone else. If we're willing to pay $250 for a house that's worth $230 and then not put another $20,000 into knocking it down and maybe put another $20,000 into cleaning it up, you know what I see? It's starting to look like leatherback to me. And you all remember, $6 million in, maybe $2 million out if we can get every penny we want out of it. So I suggest that we don't do it that way. We find another way to do it. Go into negotiations with all the property owners and say, it's all or nothing, fellas, or ladies and gentlemen, whatever, however you want to put it. And you all get on board, because if any of you hold out, we're not doing it. We're not having one or two driveways coming out at Sunny Slope there is as bad as having three. We're only taking one out of three there. So those are my ideas. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
No.
Any other questions from council? Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Aye. 2 yes and 2 no.
Flip a coin.
Motion does not carry. Okay. Move on to item A12.
Good evening, Council. Item 812 is a resolution that authorizes a task order with Wallace Group be issued, and approve a budget appropriation. And with this task order for Wallace Group would be for the design services for a West Street diversion structure and the budget to do so. The diversion, there's currently an existing diversion structure on West Street. During the San Benito Foods processing, tomato waste is sent down Hawkins, Hayden, and through this structure, and it is diverted to the industrial wastewater treatment plant. So the wastewater goes through this, and that's during the canning season. When the canning season is over and we get into the winter season, the diversion structure diverts stormwater out to San Benito River through the Apricot outfall. Unfortunately, what has happened, and we did try and do a couple repairs on it, is that this diversion structure, which has stainless steel slide gates in, and it depends on which way you have one open and one closed, and the other one will depend on which way the flow will go. The slide gates inside the existing structure has corroded. It is in a state of disrepair. It is something that we cannot do permanent repairs on because of the nature of the tomato waste and its acidity, and what it's actually doing is eating the concrete in there. What Wallace Group will be doing and will be designing a new diversion structure. And this is based on a plan that or analysis that they had done earlier when we were having this diversion structure fail. They looked at two different scenarios. One, take the whole diversion structure out, and two, replace it. Taking the whole structure out would require about $5.1 million of improvements downstream, because what happens is the stormwater as it goes down and towards the industrial plant would surcharge, and it becomes a problem with trying to keep the water inside the pipe. So in order to do the first option, which is remove the structure, we'd be looking at spending $5.1 million, and that's just an estimated cost. Their second alternative was to replace the structure with a prefabricated fiberglass structure that would be that's actually designed to withstand the higher temperatures and the acidity of the tomato waste, and so it will serve the purpose. Where the plan is to actually have an additional one downstream of the Apricot Lane to act as a secondary containment. And what that will do is it'll keep tomato waste from actually entering that Apricot, that storm line. One of the problems that we've had in the past few years is odor coming out of the Apricot storm line, and that's because that with the failure of these structures, failures of these gates, it has sent tomato waste in the wrong direction. And with that, we have tomato waste that sits in a storm drain pipe, and it starts fermenting, and then we start getting the nauseous odors that comes out of that pipe. This solution will eliminate that problem. We have the secondary gate is to ensure that it will be eliminated, and if there is a problem, we're catching it right there. But we don't anticipate that there will be a problem. And so, what we're asking here is that we issue a task order to Wallace Group for $45,400, and that would be for the design of the structure. We're also asking that an additional $4,400 be appropriated. That will take care of a topographic survey that, because of the immediate need and whether or not we had one way or the other. We actually, staff authorized that topographic survey to be done. It's something that we'd need either way, whether we go one way or the other. So the total expenditure is $49,800 for this design. We will, once the design is done, the plan is to come back to the City Council with an authorization to bid the project. At that time, the plan will also be to ask the City Council authorization to pre-purchase this structure, because it will take this prefabricated structure will take it's 6 to 8 weeks. I'll add 6 to 8 weeks in the or pre-ordering it will save 6 to 8 weeks in the schedule. Waiting to order it with the contractor, which has a 14 to 18 week lead time, will push us really close to opening of the San Benito Foods, and pre-ordering and pre-purchasing the structure will at that time will save quite a bit of time for the project. That decision will be made once when we come back with an authorization to bid the project. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions from council?
Well, according to the staff report, it only saves 2 weeks.
The 2 weeks saving is on the topographic survey that we authorize them to do right away, because now that they have that, they already have that in place. It was done a couple weeks ago. If the City Council approves this task order, we'll issue the task order tomorrow. They'll get started on the design. What they don't have to do is wait for the topographic survey to come through. With the prefabricated structure, we're looking at saving an additional 6 to 8 weeks on the schedule, and that's about the bid time that it would take. So if we pre-order the structure, we order it, we have everything's ready to go. City Council authorizes us to bid. The next day, we order the structure, and we put plans and specifications out on the bid board to ask the contractors to bid on the project.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Clower?
I may have missed this in the packet. Is San Benito Foods reimbursing the city for the cost, or at least partial cost, of this project?
This is a replacement of a structure. I'm not anticipating that San Benito Foods will be reimbursing us for the structure, because it's already in place, and we're replacing a worn out. Basically, it's a worn out structure.
Doesn't it not work anymore because of San Benito Foods?
That's true.
And if it doesn't work, they can't open.
If it doesn't work, then when they do open, when they do start processing, then we're risking additional enforcement actions against us, because there is a huge possibility that this thing will leak.
I know, that's what I said.
I think the
It's
point
not work, they don't open.
The point they're making is that the wear and tear was caused by the cannery, and if there's not a valve there, a gate valve, it cannot open. So it would probably be in their best interest to help us with the payment of the repurchasing of a new gate.
Do we have?
Yeah, and that's something that we will, if that's what the council wishes, we'll go ahead and make that argument to San Benito Foods.
Or do we have funds in the San Benito Foods fund to be able to cover something like this? Because if the design's $50,000, I imagine the actual installation is going to be much more expensive than that.
5.5.
Yeah, the installation right now is estimated about $220,000.
Oh, you said $5 million.
No,
that's for option 1. But what we're talking about is option 2.
So, in terms of the process, we're looking to save time by pre-ordering the piece that we know we're going to need, and then we're going to RFP and queue for the installation, or I'm just trying to understand.
Well, so because this would be a construction project, what we would do is put out a set of plans and specifications and ask for bids to be submitted for us. Because that takes about 6 to 8 weeks to do and actually go and get awarded. What we want to be able to do is tell the contractors that we've already purchased this structure, and it'll be written in the specifications that they will take possession of it at a certain point in time. That it'll arrive at the site on a truck. Once it arrives there, it's theirs to install, and so they will have to use their good judgment in removing it from the truck so they don't break it.
If we already know what we need, why is it going to cost $50,000 to figure out how to put it in?
We know what we need in concept. The design of what we need is still yet to be done, and that's what Wallace Group will be doing. It'll be designing that. They'll also be doing the plans and specifications for that work.
Is it the idea that once we get the design back, we pre-order now that we know what we're going to need, and that's going to save us the time from the design being done to accepting the bid of a contractor? That's the time we're saving?
Yeah, it's once the city council authorizes the bids to be let out, so authorizes the staff to request bids to be submitted. There's a certain point that if the city council decides at that action item, not to proceed with the contract, the council will say, no, we're not going to bid the project. Well, we don't want to order the structure prior to that, because then we're ordering a structure that would be very expensive to cancel, and so we don't want to have that looming over us.
So we're thinking that we're going to save, was it 6 to 8 weeks, and we're ordering it when we accept a bid, and it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks before it goes in?
It's 6 to 8 weeks from the time this council authorizes bids to be submitted and the time that bids are submitted, checked, and we actually award the contract.
So what if we pre-order it and then we're like, dang, these bids are all too high?
It's that is a risk that we take.
Okay.
So how long is it going to take for the design?
Their design is it's about a 2-month process for them to design the project. If we send them the notice to proceed tomorrow, which would be the issuing of the task order, they're looking at having the design done about 5 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks after that. And that's we've already saved 2 weeks of that because we don't have to worry about the topographic survey. So it could be 6 to 8 weeks for design.
6 to 8 weeks for the design, 6 to 8 weeks for the bid. So before anybody can put a shovel in the ground, we're talking April.
We're talking about February. But there's that 14 to 18 week period of time that we're waiting for the contract or for the structure to be fabricated and shipped out to us. So there will be a very long period of time where nothing's going to happen while we're waiting for that piece of.
So the contractor's going to bid the job before he sees the structure.
He's going to have the plans. He's going to have everything that he's going to need to be able to bid the project. He'll have plans and specifications. He'll have the drawings, know what that's going to look like. And whether, if this contractor was going to take care of everything and order the project, order the structure after he bid it, he's going to have all the same information. He's not going to have the structure to look at before he bids. He's going to have to, he would have had to order the structure based on everything that he's going to have.
Councilmember Luna.
Yes. David, can you just clarify something that I'm reading here on the staff report where it says the appropriation would be from Fund 662 and it not to exceed the amount of $49,800, and on your appropriation adjustment document it says Fund 660.
So it should be coming out of the sewer enterprise fund, and I believe that
660.
660. Yeah, it is Fund 660.
So it's not 662.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Do we have any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move on to item A13.
Good evening. This item is a request to approve a contract with RSG for a Phase 1 tax increment financing analysis. We presented the request to initiate a contract at the October 17th City Council meeting. This is to explore the feasibility of establishing a community revitalization investment authority. This is a new authority that was enabled by Assemblyman Alejo's Senate Bill 2 last year. There was an amendment to the legislation this year that would allow the city to pursue this funding tool in certain parts of the city, primarily in the downtown area near Rancho San Justo and on the west part of Hollister.
So this is the backdoor RDA.
Right. It's more constricted. None of the tax increment could go to schools. So it also requires that the geographic area that can be included in the Community Revitalization Investment Authority have a median income. 80% of the area has to have a median income that's 80% or less than the median state average. The unemployment rate has to be 3% above the state average. There has to be inadequate infrastructure and some buildings in need of rehabilitation.
So where would the funds come from, do we know?
It would function similar to the redevelopment agencies with the tax increment. So I think Bill could probably sneeze it and explain it, but yeah.
You remember how tax increment work? It basically is the same way. There's in the newer law there's more qualifying regulations in order to establish a district. Very similar though to redevelopment, all based on tax increment dollars. So as properties increase or develop, that property tax dollar then goes to the CRIA and not necessarily to the other tax agencies. Okay. That was the short version.
Does this area meet the criteria?
Some areas in our community do meet based on staff's review of some of the American Community Survey census data. Again, the west part of Hollister and downtown, and some of the area near Rancho San Justo.
Okay. Any other questions? Speaker cards?
Marty Richmond.
Marty Richmond from Hollister. I support it in general. And as I understand it, it would work similar to an RDA, meaning that some of the state money that goes to the state is basically peeled off and just gets to stay home, so to speak. I did not understand. I wonder if I could ask Ms. Paxton to clarify the part about the schools. She mentioned it, and I didn't quite understand it. So I wonder if you could take a moment, please, and explain the part. And we all understand that 68 cents of every property tax dollar in San Benito County currently goes to the schools. Thank you.
I think maybe you remember when we had a redevelopment agency before, some of the tax increment went to the schools. Some of it we had a pass-through agreement with the county, I think in the water district, where we didn't take any tax increment away from them. The way this law, the only reason I think the law went through is it's going to keep the schools will keep they won't lose tax increment. Yeah. So yeah.
So the reality of the amount of money that raised, it's going to be very little.
We did talk to the consultant, Jim Simon, and he did a preliminary review of our property taxes. They're in the business of doing this, and he thought on a preliminary basis, he thought it looked feasible, but they have to do the study. This is a first step. And then if it is feasible, then we could proceed with developing a community revitalization and investment authority. The study could also be used for another funding tool that's called the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, and that's for infrastructure. That's something that could be used for economic development for businesses. So the study could be used two ways.
I can't see much dollars being raised through this. There was no other speakers. All right, any other questions from council? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the resolution 2016-182.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll go against. Thank you very much. Item 815.
Do you want me to do it or are you going to do it?
Go ahead. Good evening, Mayor and council members, ladies and gentlemen of the public. This item will authorize the City Council to approve the job title, job description, and salary range for the Housing Program Coordinator position, a permanent full-time position. The City of Hollister and San Benito County found both entities had a great need for a housing staff person. The idea of funding a joint position was appealing to both organizations, so a memorandum of understanding between the City of Hollister and San Benito County was created to fund a housing and grant coordinator position. The City and County would be responsible for each paying half of the salary and the benefits for this position. The City Council approved this position at the August 1st, 2016 meeting. Upon further review of the MOU between both entities, it was discovered that the job title should have been Housing Programs Coordinator instead of Housing and Grant Coordinator, based on the tasks and duties that said staff person would be responsible for. It was also revealed that the salary of $57,520.32 would need to be added. The position would report to the City of Hollister's Development Services Director and provide monthly status reports to the county executive as previously agreed upon. And that concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you. Are any questions?
No, the reason I brought it up was I forgot about the conversation we had about the 50-50 with the county.
Okay.
And I was just thinking we're adding another layer to this bureaucracy that we love so much. All right. I forgot about the conversation we had in October.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Any speaker cards? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 2016-184.
There's a motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0 vote. Move forward. public input.
consent.
8:30.
9 o'clock?
Shall we take another break?
We run an efficient meeting.
Public input. Members of the public may address the City Council on any matter within the City Council's jurisdiction that is not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Speaker cards are available in the foyer and are to be completed and given to the City Clerk before speaking. State law prohibits the City Council from discussing or taking action on any item which is not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers left?
We have 3.
Okay.
Tim Burns.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I wanted to talk briefly about Measure W. I recognize we're on the eve of the election, and so I'm cautiously optimistic that Measure W will in fact pass. Having said that, I've reviewed the most recent report on Measure E as well as all the other reports, and like the previous 2 reports, the report given to you on October 17th on page 3 at the top of the page, it contains the following language. It says, Measure E was listed on the ballot as a general tax proposal. This means that the funds can be used for any purpose as compared to a specific tax proposal in which funds can only be used for a specific purpose. However, the measure was marketed as a means to maintain current services. The Council has yearly transferred Measure E and T revenue into a general fund. Since Measure E is a general tax, and since the revenue is transferred into the general fund, it does not make sense to talk about specific services paid for by the measure. I would like to ask that you strongly consider, if Measure W passes, that the reports become more clear and more specific, recognizing that a 20-year period is significantly more than a 5-year period, and if it generates over 20 years what it has generated on an average over the past 5 and the previous 5, it's my understanding that's about $4 million annually. That would be about an $80 million generation of funds. And so I think that the community has a right to know where the money is specifically spent, regardless of the process the voters approve the tax through. And I also think that it's imperative that there be an independent audit conducted on an annual basis and presented to council publicly and through a public comment so questions can be asked. And so again, I'm cautiously optimistic and I wholly support Measure W, but I think there is a need for greater transparency and accountability as it relates to the reporting in the event that it passes. Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much.
Marty Richmond.
Are we still here? Yeah, we're here. I feel like Joe Paul working late at the night of the election. Marty Richmond from Hollister. If you haven't been following it, there's been a big back and forth between the same 5 people that are always on Benito Link over the issues concerning homeless and Park Hill, and the issues that flow over down at the bottom of Park Hill. Well, I don't remember the address. So I want to talk about that a little bit. I hope the public is watching, or will take note of it. You know, they keep yelling at the city. I just want the public to know that behavioral health last year is behavioral health. The county is the primary funnel for the mental health funds and for substance abuse funds. I don't think a lot of people in the city know that. Last year, behavioral health had a budget of about it was over $7 million. They have 43 employees. That's in this county. They had a substance abuse budget of $1.44 million in this county, and they have more than, and that I think substance abuse got 12 employees. And you know the HHS over there has got, are you ready? Everybody's sitting down? Has got 81 employees just in the HHS. Now, basically, behavioral health, substance abuse, HHS, and a whole raft of other social programs are all 100% essentially funded by the federal and state government. They get back every penny, including the overhead rates for their HR and for their electricity and for the buildings and for cutting the bushes and whatever it is. And they get to charge that back to the state and the federal government. So the primary responsibility, and I'm not saying you have no responsibility, but really all the funding is over at the county. And if they don't, we don't have a health department in the city, and I'm not sure that any city our size in the state of California has a health department, and we don't have a mental health arrangement. So anything that goes into spending a lot of money to help the homeless and to mitigate the homeless impact in the city really belongs to the county. And the county needs to make sure that that just doesn't go into a fund and get used up without getting out to where the problem is. So I'm just putting that out for your information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
John Balgamot.
Chief, before you start the timer, and Mr. Mayor, I want to shout out a big thank you to the chief and the fire chief. I decided to test your asphalt structural fortitude in my head the other day. Thanks to one too many. But if it hadn't been for the chief and the fire chief, Gail would have never known where I was at. And a big shout out to the nurses at Hazel Hawkins and the Tividat. Thank you guys. If it hadn't been for you, I think I'd have lost my life, finally. My biggest thing is, Marty, thank you for the homeless thing. I recently got in trouble at the college for the way I was acting because we have some homeless out there with some really bad health problems. We have federally issued phones, but we have no federal charging stations to charge these phones at. So we figured since the college gets a federal grant for education stuff, we could use their power port. Well, they didn't like that idea too well. Basically what I'm approaching for is some way that if we got to make emergency calls or something, we got a place to plug in real quick. We can make our emergency calls. We can charge up for 15 minutes and be on our way or whatever, okay? I talked to you, Mr. Mayor, a while back, too, about when you had the porta potties in place during farmers market, that the urination and defecation went down quite a bit. This all happened, but it's gone back up. I'll tell you that myself. I see it myself out there on the streets. I mean, it's gone back up since you took all the porta potties away. It'd be nice if you could put a couple in an obscure alley someplace that only we would know about or something like that, because I sure wouldn't have to use a corner anymore anywhere. I'm sorry to say that, Mr. Mayor, but I do have to sometimes. And these last couple freak rains we had, Chief, the officers have been running us out of places to try and stay dry from. I don't know if the warming shelter is going to be open during the day this year or whatever, but it'd be nice if somebody could monitor the weather, that if we've got a big rainstorm coming in, okay, and they know people are going to get wet, okay, house them up, please. House them up. Because, I mean, that's what brings on pneumonia and flu and things like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
There are no more
Last
speakers.
speaker. All right, we'll move D31, City Manager's Report.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Move over to F51, the motorcycle rally.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What you have in front of you this evening is a draft copy, and I know that I want to apologize once again for sort of there was some errors in this particular item, and you may have gotten 1, 2, or maybe more different versions of the Raleigh contract. The one that I'm hoping that you're going to be looking at is basically just for 2017. It is the highlights basically is essentially the same with road shows. The request is in order to have the event would be $180,000. I had originally put the first payment due on May 1st, with the second payment due on May 1st and then June 1st, allowing the council, if that second payment is not delivered, an opportunity for you to cancel the event if you had to. I spoke to Randy on the phone today, and he's received the contract. They're going through it. I'm not asking you to make a decision this evening. I don't have an executed contract on their behalf, so I'd like to be able to have the conversation with the council. If there's anything specific that you would like to see included or added to the contract or removed from the contract, please let me know, and I can make those changes and get that to him as soon as possible. He was mentioning that he was going to be in the area around December 2nd. I don't know if that's going to be appropriate or not. I'd like to be able to try to get it back on the agenda for November 21st for adoption, but I'm only going to go as fast as I can go with them. So if there's any questions that you have of me, feel free to ask, or please let me have any of your thoughts or concerns about specific dates or items related to the contract. As you know, I think we've always assumed that it was going to be right around $180,000. I think I sent to you an email several weeks ago with a spreadsheet on sort of the average cost of the rally on an annual basis. And what's hard is that sometimes we pay for things on previous years in the current fiscal years and some things that are coming up. So you can take a look at those costs. But generally, on average, if you remove the capital that we charge for the downtown cameras, it's right around $165,000 a year. And so if there was some contingency items that come up on one particular year or another, that's why I feel fairly comfortable with the 180 being able to catch all of those things. Even with the capital that was included in 2014 and 15, our average is about 188. So that's just so that you folks know. Okay.
Are there any questions
So-
from council?
Yes.
We're not accepting this tonight.
I would not accept this tonight, no, because they have not provided the city clerk with an executed agreement. We generally like to have the other party assign, and so that you know what you're adopting is what they've agreed to. So, like I said, I'd hope to get something from them. Hopefully by the 21st. I think it's imperative that we get this ironed out as soon as possible if we're going to have an event in 2017, but I can't force people to sign things. As you know, I should say this, is road shows had a couple of partners last year, if you'll recall. One of those members has fallen ill, so I mean that's another issue that sort of they're dealing with on their end, which is not good. But
Any other questions, council? Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, on the agreement last year and this year that is being presented, and we'll wait on that. But I want to call to the attention on number 11, access to records. I don't think that really we have received anything from roadways in regards to financial records as to what kind of funds came in. I mean, we brought BOE in, and that was fine, but and BOE is not about to give us personally any documents or any information. But on the agreement here, access to records, it says promoters shall maintain all books, records, and actually, if we want to see them,
you can make that request.
That's right, and I don't know that we have to ask for the request, but I mean, wouldn't it just be something that he should be doing and bringing in information, financial information, to know where we're at? We haven't heard anything.
Yeah. What I can do, if the council so pleases, I will go ahead and I will make that request to him in writing for those financial records as it relates to that section of the contract. I can do that for you.
Councilmember Clower?
Yeah. In terms of the timing of the payment, it's still not quite synced up in the contract. 7F and 8A kind of contradict each other in terms of.
Does one of them say June 1st or June 25th? Yeah.
And the other one says if we don't receive first payment by June 1st. So.
Yeah, my final draft, Councilman Clower, I apologize, was May 1st was the first payment, second payment due by June 1st. If you'd like to make that even sooner, we can do that. But I will make sure that everything lines up when if that's appropriate timing for you folks, then that's what I would leave it, and we'll make it right.
May 1st, June 1st seems fair.
Okay.
It says that they have the right to cancel up to May 1st. Do we have sunk costs? I know we have sunk costs internally, but do we have sunk costs externally before May 1st?
You may want to ask the chief of police, but I don't believe that we do externally on May 1st.
It's close. There's a possibility.
Okay. Sorry. So that would be something that I think we should look at timing-wise, because if they can cancel after the time that we've started writing checks, then I have an issue with that. Another issue that I still have is workers' comp liability, and I don't think that we'll ever get anybody to agree to it, but I'd like to see the promoter who, in my eyes, probably has the most to gain by the rally happening take on that liability, because as I understand it, when we hire people from outside agencies, we take on that liability?
That is correct.
Okay, and we've had a hard time getting an insurance policy to cover that liability?
What we have, I mean, our normal Ambasia, and Brett can correct me if I'm wrong, help covers that cost. What we have, we've looked at in the past or recently, is private insurance companies taking on that liability in lieu of our own, like a supplemental or an additional to, or however we want to say it. Is that kind of the right way to say it? Okay. What the response has generally been with public safety employees, police officers in general, this type of event, the risks that's involved, it's not likely that we would find somebody to write us that policy, and certainly not in one that we could probably afford to pay. Again, the workers' comp liability insurance for police officers, if they were to get badly injured, is it $48.50? Is that what it's called? Yeah, we're responsible for.
Correct.
Okay, so $48.50 is the workers' comp plan for public safety, and that happens to be the most expensive of the workers' comp claims, because they actually have, they're mostly at risk. So we have been unable to locate a company that we could probably do that with, at least up to this point, and we've contacted a few. So it's just it's an issue. Yeah,
that's something that makes me nervous about the rally. That's something I've also said about the fire contract, is that we end up taking a lot of the risk that other people are able to avoid. So that makes me nervous. That's about it on this for today.
I just want to make sure this year we're clear on the license fee. I think again last year it was $30-something, and it should be $230.
Business license fee?
Exactly, for the temporary businesses that are coming to this event. So I just want to make sure we clarify that. We have it in writing this time, so there's no more confusion on that.
I think what I can do is I can work with Brad about, and maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to add actually all the language in there related to all the sort of permits and fees that are required, whether it's the health department fees for food vendors, building permits, business licenses, and any of the other ones that we know are generally. I think we have generators, and there's a few of them that we actually do. So maybe we'll get the list together and put that on.
It would be helpful for everyone, and then we're clear on
then
it.
There's no argument. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have speakers, Mr. Mayor. First speaker is Tim Burns.
Good evening, Council, once again, and Mayor. I had some questions that I have not heard publicly answered, and I thought I would raise them at this point. And the first one was, it's my understanding that 2 rallies ago, the city lost somewhere around $90,000. Is that factually accurate? And I know that question was raised for the most recent rally, and I've not heard an actual clear number. And so if I missed it, shame on me. If it's not been made available, it needs to be made available, because I don't know how you can make an informed decision on an event when you don't have all the facts, and the history would suggest that the rally does not make money, and if anything, it costs the city and the residents of the community money that could clearly be spent in other areas more appropriately. And so I've heard some things tonight that just astonished me, and the thing that Councilmember Clower brought up about the workers' compensation and liability issue is unfathomable to me as a resident of the community, why we as a community and the city would assume that liability in the event somebody got hurt, with the likelihood that could in fact happen. There were a few years ago, as I recall, there was a shooting that happened at the Chevron. So we know that violence can happen as a result of people that attend the rally on an occasion. I heard the city manager speak about $180,000 to potentially maybe break even. Why in the world would we want to host an event to break even? While I admit that it's certainly better than losing money, it makes no sense to me. And I know that to compare it against the Gilroy Garlic Festival is probably not a fair comparison, but it's the one that comes to my mind immediately. And I know that that event raises millions of dollars for the community, and we're talking about breaking even. I understand that they've been around for a number of years, and the rally has stopped and started, and that's clearly a problem. I'd also like to know what the economic impact has been to the community for the last 5 years that the rally's gone on, because I think that may be a fair indicator, and it may make sense to invest recognizing you can minimize the losses moving forward, and it may make sense to look at a longer period of time for the rally as well. I understand that because of it having been a state highway in the past, that there was a restriction for it to be closed for 3 days maximum, and so I'd like to know more about that. And then finally, I'd like to know if the report that you have before you is a staff report, now that it's been presented to council, is in fact now a public record. And if so, I'd certainly like to gain access to it for further review and conversation as well. Thank you, Council, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And Marty Richmond.
Don't even get a reset anymore because it's getting so late. Is that the deal?
All right,
Only get 5 seconds. Marty Richmond. As I've mentioned 100 times before, we'll make it 101. We're never going anywhere on these decisions unless we get a rally budget, not a fiscal year budget, because it goes over the fiscal years, as the city manager mentioned. Again, we need a rally budget, and it needs to include all the, as the previous speaker mentioned, it needs to include all the hard numbers and all the soft numbers. The soft numbers are, for instance, I'm not putting it out, I'm just giving you an instance. If they do a lot of advertising, which apparently they do, that advertising obviously has some value to Hollister as far as advertising goes, not just for the rally. People tend to go back where they've been before. I don't know if we're keeping track of how many people come, say, go to the rally and then come back here. I don't know if there's anybody who does it. I don't know if everybody who does it. I don't know the answer. I'm looking for the facts. We need a rally budget, and we should look at that budget to see how we're doing, rather than keep saying it's all split over 2 fiscal years. I understand that. But it's making it impossible to do any kind of rating of where we're going. We've got, if this was a project, you wouldn't do it without a budget. The fact it goes over 2 fiscal years doesn't matter. The project has a budget. So I would do that for sure. As far as the getting information, I agree with Councilmember Luna. We should get it, but we might have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I think that's perfectly fair. We don't want to give it, they don't want to give that information to us to give to some other promoter. And if I was in business, I wouldn't let you give it to some other promoter. So I think the city should consider just going in and saying, we'll sign a non-disclosure agreement, but you have to tell us X, Y, and Z. I think those are the basic things we have to do. We have to once and for all decide whether or not it's worth our while. And as the previous speaker mentioned, was also on my little speech in my head, is to say it's not all about dollars and cents. At some point in time, the entire thing is worth it because of all the benefits it does. We get some of the money back as sales taxes. Everybody knows that. I mean, without it, several places here would have a very difficult time staying in business. So we get some of it back as sales taxes. We get some of it back as employment. We get some of it back. And on the other side, we take some risks, and and those risks can get very expensive. So we have to look at each of those issues and run them to ground. And the only way to do that is to do all this talking about the contract, but also sit down with a pencil and paper and put it all down so we know where we are. I appreciate your time. I'm sorry it's so late. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
That's it. So you just need
guidance on if I can respond to if I could just let me Absolutely. Have like 2 minutes here.
Sure.
And I can appreciate where Marty's coming from the budget perspective, and I hope that that he takes this sort of as it's meant. Is the $180,000 that we get from the promoter is our budget. That's what we shoot for to put a safe rally on. But I'm never going to hamstring Dave's arms on saying if he needs to do something differently because of a situation that pops up right prior to an event, that he's not going to be able to do that. So it is, Marty, that 180 is really our budget. That's what we go by. All the department heads, specifically Bob Martin, Del Campo, and Chief Westrick, that's what they use as a gauge to put on a relatively safe event. As the speaker, as Tim Burns mentioned as a speaker about sort of the economic impacts, we've done a lot of analysis through HDL and whatnot during the months of July, the third quarter of the year. It doesn't come up even as a blip. Please, everybody needs to remember, if there's $500,000 that trades hands and sell on taxable goods here, that's $5,000 that you would see. $5,000 is nothing in the grand scheme of what we're getting on a quarterly basis in sales tax dollars. So it's very, very difficult to see what exactly it is. And again, $500,000 seems like a lot or a little. It doesn't matter, but it's still only 1% of what we're talking about. So it becomes very difficult to sort of ascertain. Now we do know that there are some businesses that really do well here over the rally. We do know that the people who work there have extra money. That money gets turned over. I think Councilman Gomez has said it several times that he noticed when he was running his business that weeks post rally, he was selling a lot more pizza to people who were that were probably involved in the rally that had more expendable dollars during that week. So that's where it's been kind of hard to really ascertain the true benefit of the rally. As Marty said, there's also benefit in just the advertising that folks do for us. But again, it is also a huge risk, and that's a risk that the council or policy decisions that you have to make. And any financial information that you would like us to get, we will do our very best to try to get that for you. We have an account, if anybody wants to know, it's 1947. So basically all expenditures are coming from that. So that's exactly how you know what our expenditures are for any given rally. So that's all I wanted to say. And yes, we'll get back to you with whatever else you folks want and that other information in the contract.
Do we need a motion to continue?
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second to continue?
Do we want to put a date on it?
I thought it was, you wanted to continue to 11/21?
I don't think we have a firm date, so continue to a future meeting. Okay. 11/21.
Then don't, and then we'll just agendize it again.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to item 52.
Oh, can I Brett just let me know that it's actually Fund 229, we got rid of 1947. I apologize. He was a little late on my bill.
Okay, good evening. This resolution will approve contract amendment number 3 with Development and Public Finance, LLC. now doing business as MF Whipple and Associates, to review and evaluate all of the existing site leases at 420 Hill Street and negotiate a new lease with Crown Castle and a supplemental appropriation for $14,000. The city has approved piecemeal leases over time for cellular services at 420 Hill Street with American Tower, Charter Communications, Sprint Nextel, and Crown Castle. Laws pertaining to cellular facilities and terms for leases continually evolve. Staff recommends retaining the services of Development and Public Finance, LLC, doing business as MF Whipple and Associates, to provide a comprehensive assessment of the existing lease agreements at 420 Hill Street and complete a fiscal analysis with recommendations for optimizing revenues with the lease agreements. Staff also recommends using the consultant to negotiate a new lease agreement with Crown Castle. The not-to-exceed cost for the Task 1 audit and analysis of the existing lease is $8,000, and the Task 2 cost for the negotiation of a new lease with Crown Castle is $6,000. The $14,000 cost for the consulting services can be recovered from higher lease payments from extensions of lease agreements. And that concludes the staff presentation.
Okay, is there any questions from council? Councilmember Clower?
Do we have a range on the expected net of what that new lease would be over whatever term it is?
Yeah, the city is actually in a very unique perspective. We have a unique perspective because the Crown Castle lease is expiring soon, and so there's two options. One would take a lump sum up front or do an extended lease over the term of 30 years. And the expected gross estimated payment that we would receive for the one-time payment could anywhere be from $800,000 to $950,000. So it's up again. The consultant will do the analysis and will present it to the council as to how the city would like to move forward with, especially the Crown Castle lease. So,
perfect. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? Any speaker cards? Okay. Anybody want to speak? No. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 5-0 vote. Write that down. Item. Did our city clerk have to take a break? Why don't we just wait for him to come back so we actually have a record of this? He's back. Just let us know when you need a break, sir. That was a 5-0
I don't want him
vote.
recording this part.
My amanuensis. Should we go Ray Mickey for the first and second?
Oh, the motion, it was Ray, and then second by Councilmember Luna.
Thank you.
We'll move to item 53.
Mayor and Council. So we're bringing this motion or this resolution to you to rescind two past resolutions, Resolution 2015-129 and 2016-90. Those are appropriation limits that we calculate during the budget. It was found that we used a wrong number from the state, which caused 2 years to be miscalculated. We're coming with an error, and we just corrected that, and we just want to move forward with the correct numbers. It doesn't affect anything financially. It's just we just need to have the right numbers in our records.
Okay. Is there any questions, Councilmember Luna?
You said it was a state account?
No, in the calculation, we get the numbers from the state, and we just pulled off the wrong number on the calculation. So,
and it was a report going
right.
to the state?
Correct. Or no, sorry, it's an appropriation limit that we have for the city that shows that how much taxes we're allowed to bring in. We don't bring in the amount of taxes that the calculation. When we calculate the appropriation limit, our limit is far surpasses the amount of taxes that we bring in. So the error does not affect any of those calculations.
So the error will not cost any penalty,
No penalty
against the city?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And in the 1 year, 2015, you use your last year to calculate your next year. So because that 2015 was incorrect, effective the 2016. So, and then what the auditors will do is recertify the appropriation limit, and it won't be fine. But no fines.
Okay, any other questions? Any speaker cards? Is there a motion?
So moved.
The motion?
Resolution 2016-170.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Do we need another one?
Correct. 171 also.
So move.
2016-171.
Second. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you very
carries.
much.
Move to item 54.
Thank you, Mayor. This item, real quick, is a professional service agreement with Wildan to reevaluate the impact traffic impact fees for the city of Hollister as it relates to commercial and industrial zoning designations, and potentially again also look at higher density residential as it relates to various zones in the higher density areas. So we've had initial contacts. I think that they have some relatively good ideas about how to come up with appropriate findings, which is something that I think is hugely important as we move forward with this. And I think we've gone through this a number of times and kind of the philosophy around how industrial and commercial zoning districts and/or projects sort of relieve the amount of traffic that's on Highway 25 and 156, not necessarily a mass contributor on those roads. So, with that said, if you have any questions,
Is there any questions from council? Any speaker cards?
So move.
Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 5-0 vote. Move to item 55.
Mayor and council, staff respectfully request that item 55 be continued to November 21st. You will actually have another item that goes along with this, and then again, they will still be contingent upon Planning Commission action that will occur on November 22nd, but the completed package will be to you on 11/21.
Okay, is there a motion to continue to 11/21?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 56.
56. Oh, you want that? Who's doing that?
This next item is requesting the approval for CFD number 2, Community Facility District for Police and Fire, of the proposed boundaries of Orchard Park and Cerrado subdivisions, annexation number 14 and 15. This is a special tax of $436.19 that all property owners will pay. This tax will pay for police and fire protection services, police and fire equipment, and other benefits.
Okay, is there any questions from council? Any speaker cards? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Waited all night for those 2 minutes.
You're next again.
We'll go to item 59.
Oh, sorry, you're not next. Sorry. Where's Brad?
Taking a nap.
Take a break.
No. We already did 57, 58.
Sorry, Christian. I forgot that he was in the middle.
Mea culpa, mea culpa. This is the retention agreement.
Your microphone, is it on?
Excuse me. This is the retention agreement for Pamela Epstein, who was selected by the ad hoc committee of yourself, Mayor and Councilman Friend. I also included the names of 3 other attorneys who had cannabis experience and are city attorneys. You interviewed them all, and she was selected. There are 2 agreements here. One is with her firm, or her personal firm, and then one is with a law firm in California that she is of counsel with, that she would be representing us with a California. She's both a California lawyer and an Arizona lawyer. But one of them, the address is her Arizona home office. The other is with the California firm.
Okay. Are there any questions? Councilmember Luna?
Actually, it's not a question, but when I read the report, I wondered why we were getting an attorney out of Arizona when we have quite a few in California that are addressing this.
Well, I did not interview her. I provided her name. She has spoken at various conferences. She's a California attorney. She spoke at a number of conferences, that 2 that I gave talks on the food safety aspects of the edibles, and she was quite knowledgeable, which is why I asked her if she would be interested in submitting a resume to Councilman Friend and the mayor. And then I also included a city attorney from Arroyo Grande, and he's special counsel for King City. And then Atwater Ripon, and he's special counsel for Stockton doing medical marijuana. And then a gentleman who's done a number of counties and cities in Northern California out of Roseville. So the names I provided were attorneys who had experience in drafting regulations and the ordinance, and who had worked on both sides of the medicinal marijuana, either for ordinances and regulations moving forward, or also had experiences with bans or ordinance limiting, so that no matter which way you wanted to go, you had someone with experience. I did not interview per se, but I did speak to all of them before I gave the names to the mayor and Councilman Friend. I felt she was really, really knowledgeable. I mean, I don't want to say she's an improvement over me because we're being recorded, but she is.
But she definitely is an improvement over you, yes.
She was by far the most knowledgeable about what we were doing, how we wanted
Ray,
to approach it.
Can you speak in your microphone?
How we wanted to approach how we were doing this. She was the most knowledgeable. And she was a little cheaper.
Yeah, she was.
She was the cheapest of the 3, so. Being fair to the city, we wanted to be fair to the...
Well, but these expenses will be included in the report that Brett is putting together of all of our expenses. And normally any expenses, either my own that were spent on this ordinance, hers, and any other experts or consultants will be put aside, and they will be recovered or recouped when we file an application fee is set forward. So if you will delay, I mean, if you think ahead, probably even within this fiscal year, any expenses we have will be recovered.
Councilmember Clower?
Is this the normal process that we use to put another attorney on retainer? This is the first time that I've ever been involved in this, and it just seemed a little different from everything else that we've done.
Well, a lot of times when special counsel are assigned, be they a special attorney, or I was looking up for city engineer, oftentimes you will hire a specialist, and normally we don't go through this formal of a process. I will say, hey, this is a let's say, a labor law issue, and I don't want to handle it in-house with Sergio Parra or Jim Sullivan. I want to hire Liebert Cassidy because I don't want to have any hint of, myself or my firm influencing the defense. Oftentimes, those are handled by Billy or myself just hiring the person. We're doing it this time this way. When Tom, Billy, myself, let's be very clear, let's be very open, let's put it on the agenda, let's get your input. We're doing it this way because once it was selected, or once it was determined in myself talking with the ad hoc committee that even though we had the opinion letters and the FPPC that there was no conflict, well, people were bringing up the issues, so it was easier for me to step back. So this is in line with, you can see all the people here who, it's...
We want to make sure on this issue that everything was transparent and out in the open, so there's no...
Yeah, that was my question. So we're actually going further than we normally would to hire a...
Right,
okay.
absolutely.
And then my second question is pretty simple, but is it the Hoban Law Group that's from California?
Yes.
Okay, because all their addresses are Colorado.
It's a law firm with...
It's a huge one?
Yeah, it's... Okay. Yeah, they're bigger than us.
Thanks.
We've got multiple, our Salinas, Monterey, and Hollister.
All right. Are there any other questions? Do we have any speaker cards? No speaker cards. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is a
second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Move to item 60.
This item is requesting the approval of CFD number 4, Community Facility District for Public Facility Services for the proposed boundary of Orchard Park subdivision, annexation number 8. This special tax will be paid by all property owners. This tax will provide services such as landscape maintenance. All costs associated with this CFD will vary depending on the project, as some of the projects may be different than the others. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions? Councilmember Clower?
Is the Serato piece already in CFD 4? Because that one was in the other one we just did.
As of right now, Serato is only been annexed to CFD number 2, if you guys approve it. We're still waiting for paperwork.
To get them into CFD 4?
To get into the CFD number 4.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No speakers? Okay. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion, is there a second? The motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move to item 61, reports from City Council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Luna.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. I attended the Area Agency on Aging on Wednesday, the October 18th, and in Watsonville Community Center. And I just need to let you know that I was appointed to the State Assembly Legislative Committee that will be representing Santa Cruz and San Benito. And so that happened during that meeting, and I really have to thank the committee there, and the majority are from Santa Cruz. But I really want to thank Bruce McPherson, our former state senator, who actually encouraged me to do this, and I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Good job. Okay. Councilmember Friend?
Yes, I had one committee meeting. One was put off till this Thursday. And one was, we did have the intergovernmental committee, and we talked about and finalized the draft on the bylaws for the committee. We talked about consolidation of some standing committees like Parks and Recs. We're still waiting on the library needs assessment, which should be coming soon. And we also had a report out about the Nash Road closures. So that's basically what we had.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Gomez?
No committees.
Thank you. Councilmember Clower?
I also attended the Intergovernmental Committee as an alternate. Councilmember Friend covered it.
Perfect. I did not have any committee meetings. We'll move on to item 62, informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna?
On Tuesday, October 25th, I attended a Panetta reception at San Juan Oaks. A lot of people there, and it was very interesting. And it was nice to see former Secretary Leon Panetta. I actually participated with student financial literacy classes at San Benito High School on October the 26th on Wednesday, all day, and then in the evening with a group of migrant parents. So that was interesting. Also, the Leadership Conference for Students on Saturday, October the 22nd at San Benito High School, and attended a county meeting along with Councilmember Ray Friend. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Friend?
Yeah, I got a couple little things I want to bring up. That tomorrow night there's a dinner at the Elks Lodge for veterans. It's a free dinner for the veterans and their spouses and significant others. Everybody's invited. $15 ravioli dinner. Can't beat it. Then obviously we have the 11th, where we have our Veterans Day celebration. We have the breakfast that LULAC puts on at the high school every Veterans Day. It's an excellent breakfast. Everybody should go, and there's a little ceremony there recognizing the San Benito County Veteran of the Year. Then there will be a ceremony at the Vets Hall, indoors at the Vets Hall, which is a traditional Veterans Day celebration at 11 o'clock. And then at 1:30 there will be a parade downtown Hollister for the veterans.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Gomez?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Flower?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, my family and I did the Red Ribbon Run, which was a pretty cool event. It was actually at night, and there was glow sticks and bracelets and a pretty good turnout. And then there was they played the movie McFarland after, which is a cool movie. And I hadn't been to a movie in the park yet, so it's a neat setup. You can kind of sit right on the fault and take in the movie. So kind of a natural amphitheater there. Last week, I attended the literacy program, Footsteps to Brilliance, here in the council chambers. It was interesting to see all of the educators here in the county that were there were fired up about it, and it should be rolling out. That app should be rolling out fairly quickly. On Saturday was the annual Small Steps event at Target and Payless, and just want to kind of say thank you to all the volunteers. There was a lot of people out again. And then also to Target and Payless for supporting that. And then on Saturday night, I attended the Hazel Hawkins Hospital Foundation dinner dance, and Councilmember Luna was there as well. That was a really neat event to kind of celebrate all the things that the foundation's doing, but also try to raise some more funds to improve the hospital.
Excellent. I don't have any reports. We'll go to City Manager.
Thank you. I have just a few short things. If you'll recall, the city entered into an agreement with Raftellus to look at our sewer rates. The dashboard or the model has been completed, and I was wondering if the council would like to have a special study session maybe towards the end of the month to go through that. I can tell you that there is the ability to do a few different things. The options are kind of infinite. What we can do is we can set it up on the computer, and we can move things around so that you folks have a good idea about if you do this, what will happen when and into the future. So I don't know if it would be more advantageous for us to all be together and go through that, or if the council would like to do maybe an ad hoc committee with Brett and I. It won't take more than maybe a day or two to figure out which is the best or most advantageous for the community and maybe the goals of the city council. But really what it kind of boils down to is that the council has, just generally speaking, they have the opportunity to decrease the rates as they are right now and take advantage of that program, or really look at it from a rate stabilization, and you can go many, many years probably fairly comfortable with your current rate. So those are both ends of the spectrum, and I would love to share it with you because it's finally good news for us. And so however you folks want to do it is absolutely okay with me. Does anybody have a preference and or when?
I think it'd be a good idea for the entire council to be together because it's obviously something we all discuss with the public on a frequent basis.
Would November 28th be okay for you guys after the holiday weekend, or is that not a good spot for you folks?
Is the city clerk saying no to that?
He says no to everything.
By default.
Okay, default. All right, 28th.
Okay, we'll have it set up nicely so that we can manipulate the system and you can take a look at what happens.
That'd be very important.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah. Also, as I briefly mentioned, I want to make sure that everybody out there knows that the Planning Commission, we have a special Planning Commission this month on November 22nd. It's here at City Hall at 6 o'clock. I know that there was some... our agendas this week got out a little bit late. I think there's been a desire by one council member to have a kind of a formal policy, maybe adopted by the council. I'll try to put that together so that you folks have the agenda packets complete and ready to you by Wednesday night at the latest. And I think that will help everybody be able to review those things as quickly as possible. Lastly, I'm not sure if you are aware, the city of San Juan Bautista and the county of San Benito recently adopted very similar resolutions related to going to a fire protection district or a fire district. The committee, the fire committee, and Councilman Friend and Mayor. You're on that too, right?
Yes.
So maybe you can add some of the things if I miss them. What they both did is adopted a resolution that basically formalized their desire to, I guess, hire a consultant or somebody to evaluate how to put together a fire district for those two agencies. They were looking for our involvement as well, and so I got a little bit nervous just from the HFFU position. Brett has scheduled a meeting with them. I think it's on Monday the 14th or Tuesday the 15th. But what I'd like to do is, if I can get just a nod of your head, if you would like to adopt a similar resolution on the 21st, to go ahead and be a participant or cooperate in that group effort to look at a potential county-wide fire district. That would be something that we can do to copy what basically they've done. The resolution, if I can have 1 second, is that this is the board's. The resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the County of San Benito supporting the formation of a county-wide fire protection district. And so they've sort of gone down that path. I believe City of San Juan Bautista is very similar to that. So I will leave that up to you folks if that's something you want to do. But I wanted to make sure that we had a meet and confer with our union before we started going down that path.
Well, the discussion was the pros and cons of a JPA or a district for the future partnerships.
What's interesting on San Benito County's agenda transmittal form, and I'm not sure if they really intended it to be this way, but one of their last sentences is that they were directing staff to pursue a fire protection district and not a JPA. So I'm not sure where that really stands or if that's still in play or not.
I think we'll have that conversation on Thursday again. Okay. But I think the point was that we can continue having conversations was why that was important. So I think it'd be important for us to move forward on that.
We can have discussions, but they're going to have to really do some homework. We have a fire department that's quite capable of taking care of the city. What's the benefit?
Well, and that's why I'm kind of struggling with how and maybe I just put something together and you vote on it and we go from there. So I will try to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. We'll go to City Attorney.
Yes, well, I apologize. I was talking with Brent Barnes out there, and we were following up with a conversation we started a couple of months ago when Del Webb fell away. And that was when Del Webb stopped, their mitigation land for salamanders and red-legged frog got to be 15-1, and the county was pressured, as they had been previously with the Panoche Valley Solar, where most people mitigate impacted land 4 or 5-1, that here it was getting that for every acre where you impacted something, they wanted 15 acres in perpetuity to do that. One of the reasons why that is possible in this county is that we don't have a habitat conservation plan. The county and the city started one, I guess, 10, 15 years ago. The county has been collecting money. They have a few $1 million, and it's just something that's fallen through the cracks at the county level. Early planning directors didn't follow it because I guess they didn't want there to be an easy way for some people to develop, and not just residential development, but development of any kind. He was just asking if the city might be interested in following up and having some type of a joint program. If so, it would be something that if you were inclined to have someone look at it, myself, because I've done these in other counties, and Brian, Billy could follow up. What they do is they basically set up a park or a habitat conservation area that part of it's a mitigation fee then is charged to any type of a development to preserve whatever those endangered species are. Can be done to preserve open space and habitat, or even ag, and then simply as someone was to come down here, they would pay into that for it to either expand or to be maintained, rather than having to find more land to then set aside. So it's a process that's being employed all over the rest of the state.
All right, Chief.
Just one thing, interested just by head nod, if the council wants to again do the free parking downtown in kind of a cooperation with Small Business Saturday. So we can do that again.
For the Christmas season?
Yeah. Yes.
I thought
I
that
bring
was
it to council next
pretty
time.
successful last year.
Okay.
That was a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, is that it? City Clerk?
Okay, no. Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to item 63, Ad Hoc Committee for the Sister City, Mexico Sister City.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Hollister for 17 years had a relationship with Takino, Japan. Takino actually became Kato. I think they grew together and became that larger city. About 2006, when the city was going through some financial difficulties, we weren't able to participate as much with that sister city as we had hoped. Takino, or Kato, had another sister city in Washington, Olympia. They ended up kind of just focusing on those efforts, and we got a big thank you for the last 17 years, and we really haven't had a sister city since then. Councilperson Luna, I think, requested at the last meeting to bring up the possibility of establishing a sister city in Mexico. So this report would just be to request that an ad hoc committee be established. I provided you sort of the simple application, and then some of the other communities in California that have sister cities in Mexico and how that would work. So if the council desires to go along this path and they can appoint 2 people to the committee, we can get started on working on doing that, if that's a desire.
Okay, is there any questions from council?
Just a comment.
Councilmember Luna?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for putting this on the agenda. And I remember very well Sister City in Taquino Town because I went with the first delegation to Japan. And it was very exciting to be there with so many people that really loved Hollister. A partnership as a sister city just brings a lot of wealth into a community. And I'm glad that the listing of all the California sister cities are here with the sister cities in Mexico. And if you'll notice, the Central Coast only has two. It's Salinas and Greenfield, with two sister cities in Mexico. I went ahead, I received an email today from Lourdes Juarez, who is the president of the union, and it's de Poblanos en Exterior. It's a Mexican government position in Los Angeles, and she actually works at the consulate's office in Los Angeles and deals only with Puebla, the city of Puebla, which is, about an hour from Mexico City. They were here. They came about maybe 10 years ago to Hollister because if you all know the history of Puebla, that's where the battle of the French and the Mexican government, took place, and that's what came about the festivals, the Cinco de Mayo. They came to California seeking different events, that would still being held in California. Of course, universities, colleges celebrated all the time, but they found Hollister, and they found Hollister through Dr. David Hayes Batista out of UCLA that recommended you go to Hollister because Hollister has a beautiful event. And so they came, and I think what really made it really nice was they were well received, 5 representatives from Puebla. And then to top it off, Gordon Machado gave them T-shirts that they had from, Pancho Villa. That really sold them, and they went back. But they always kept in touch with several of us in the community. And now this is the first city that has stepped up, and they're doing their part to really be part of our city and to come in and actually let everybody know what a sister city in Mexico could really do for our city. I just want to bring to your attention that this past week, the president of Mexico, Enrique Peña Nieto, actually went on television and said that Mexico City is seeking partnerships with countries, not only with other countries, and the Switzerland government was there with Mexico. They were signing the agreement, but he was encouraging communities and cities to become a sister city. So with that, I just wanted to encourage the city council to look into the possibility, because I know that the resources are there, especially Puebla, and that is surrounded by 17 universities, and the education opportunity, the Spanish immersion programs. There's just so much culture, and I know a lot of the cities down in Southern California that have sister cities, and really the Mexican sister city has brought in so much economic development. And I think there's one way of maybe looking at it. And so I just want to encourage everybody to really think about it, because I think it would be something that Hollister would really appreciate, especially when the population here in San Benito County, Latino population, is over 50%. So that's my commentary.
Thank you. Councilmember Friend?
No.
You had a comment? No. Okay. At this point, are we looking to create the ad hoc committee? And I'm going to make the assumption you're on the ad hoc. Is there another person? Do we need 2 people to be on the ad hoc?
I see somebody right there.
I'll volunteer.
Councilmember Clower is going to be your second person.
Thank you.
Do we need to have a official vote on that? Or no? Okay. Thank you very much for putting it together. Let's move forward to item H1, the Ad Hoc Committee on Joint Use.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This sort of stemmed recently out of a desire to kind of remove the joint use agreements from kind of the negotiations at the intergovernmental. I think we'd get a lot more done outside of that particular group and not take a lot of time. So, again, very similar to the sister city. We have several joint use agreements. Some of them are getting ready to expire. Some of them don't necessarily. But there's been a desire, I think, on both agencies, the Hollister School District and ourselves, to sort of combine these efforts and kind of come up with something that's much simpler than having 8 or 9 different agreements. So,
is this one of our schools we're looking at?
Yeah.
That's my new addition.
Okay. Our new offices.
Yeah, that's the Ross building. Anyway, so if the council so desires to go that path, I think that would be very beneficial to have a couple of council members help staff get together with the Hollister School District, so that when we bring something back to you folks, you can be assured that somebody was involved right from the very beginning. So.
Excellent way to do it. So I'm going to make the assumption Mr. Cloward will continue on, and Councilmember Friend would like to be on that committee. So excellent. Thank you guys for doing that. I think it's going to help us out quite a bit.
I'm a little offended I'm not getting any committee appointments.
We thought about you, Victor, but maybe next time.
Had to wake up for at least 5 minutes.
IJK, there is no business. I just want to remind everyone to please go vote tomorrow. There's an election tomorrow, and we need you all to get out there and go vote. Thank you very much for hanging around and staying with us all night. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Well, you did get it done by